His weathered boots, scuffed from years of wear, tapped an irregular rhythm against the floor, a nervous habit he'd never managed to break. The bus lurched forward, nearly empty at this hour, just the way he preferred it. Fewer people meant fewer chances for unexpected conversations, fewer obligations to acknowledge others' existence with polite nods or mumbled greetings. At 34, Jared had perfected the art of being invisible, wrapping himself in the comfortable anonymity of worn jeans and faded t-shirts. His fingers absently traced the cord around his neck, a ritual so ingrained he barely noticed it anymore. The same way he barely noticed the hollow feeling in his chest. It had been there so long it felt like a part of him, like the blue-grey eyes that stared back at him in the mirror each morning, carrying shadows he couldn't seem to shake. The bus hit a pothole, jolting him from his thoughts. Something slid across the floor, catching his attention, a small blue book, unremarkable except for its solitude. Jared watched it for several stops, waiting for someone to claim it. Nobody did. Finally, with a sigh that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than his lungs, he reached down and picked it up. The cover was soft, worn at the edges, like something carried every day and held close. No name on the outside, no phone number to call, just a simple blue diary that somehow felt heavy in his hands. He shouldn't open it. Personal thoughts weren't meant for strangers' eyes. But as the bus rolled on through the darkening streets of the city, Jared found himself drawn to the mystery in his hands. The first page was blank, as if the owner had hesitated before committing their thoughts to paper. The second page, however, stopped his breath. "Dear Diary," Tony asked about his father again today. He's only 3, but sometimes the questions in his eyes feel ancient. How do you tell a child that sometimes people leave and never come back? That sometimes love isn't enough to make someone stay? I worked double shifts again. My feet are killing me, but the bills won't pay themselves. Ms. Peterson at the daycare gave me that look again. The one that says she knows I'm struggling to make the payments on time, but Tony loves it there. He has friends, routines. I can't take that away from him just because I'm failing at this whole adulting thing. Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing any of this right. Am I strong enough, smart enough? Will Tony grow up okay despite having just me? Despite having a mom who's running on coffee and prayers most days? But then he smiles at me, that pure, beautiful smile that lights up his whole face, and for a moment, everything feels possible. Isadora Jared's throat tightened. He could almost see her, this unknown woman pouring her heart onto paper, probably late at night when her son was finally asleep. More pages followed, filled with a life so different from his own isolated existence. Stories of a little boy's first words, of birthday parties planned on tight budgets, of dreams deferred but not abandoned. Through her words, Isadora Elise Monroe emerged, a strong, beautiful black woman fighting every day to build a life for her son. Her frustrations, hopes, and determination spilled across the pages. She wrote about her job at the local diner, about the online courses she was taking to better their future, about Tony's obsession with Spider-Man, and how he insisted on wearing his superhero backpack everywhere. The bus driver's voice crackled over the intercom, announcing the final stop. Jared looked up, startled to find the sky had darkened completely. He'd missed his stop ages ago, lost in the pages of a stranger's life. Standing in the cool night air, diary clutched in his hands, Jared felt something he hadn't experienced in years, a pull toward another human being. This woman he'd never met had awakened something in him, something he thought had died along with his ability to connect with others. His fingers brushed against his phone in his pocket. He should try to find her, return the diary. It was the right thing to do. But the thought of actually meeting her, of stepping into the real world of this woman whose words had touched him so deeply, made his heart race with anxiety. Back in his apartment, Jared sat at his small kitchen table, the diary open before him. The place was sparse, functional, a reflection of a life lived in neutral tones. No photos on the walls, no mess, no evidence of human connection, just like he'd wanted it for the past 5 years. He pulled out his phone, opening the Notes app, where he usually jotted down random thoughts, fragments of a life lived mostly inside his head. But tonight, instead of his usual disconnected musings, he wrote something different. Found a diary on bus 27. Owner, Isadora Elise Monroe. Works at Miller's Diner. Has a 3-year-old son, Anthony, Tony. Lives somewhere near Pine Street Elementary. Mentioned walking Tony past it. It wasn't much to go on, but it was a start. The thought of searching for her made his palms sweat. It would mean talking to people, asking questions, making himself visible again. Everything he'd carefully avoided for years. Jared ran his fingers through his wavy brown hair, a nervous gesture that left it more disheveled than usual. The logical thing would be to turn the diary in to the bus company's lost and found. Let them handle it. Keep his distance. Stay in his safe, isolated world. But something about Isadora's words kept pulling at him. Her strength, her vulnerability, her raw honesty. It awakened something he'd thought was long buried. In her writing, he recognized a kindred spirit, someone else who carried deep wounds but kept moving forward anyway. As midnight approached, Jared made a decision that would change everything. Tomorrow, he would start looking for her. Not just to return the diary, but because for the first time in 5 years he felt ready to step back into the world of the living. He closed the diary gently, placing it beside his bed. In the darkness of his room, Jared touched the cord around his neck one last time, a habit born of grief and guilt. But tonight somehow it felt different, like maybe it was time to let go of old ghosts and find something new to hold on to. Sleep came slowly, filled with dreams of blue diaries and unseen faces, of second chances and the possibility that sometimes the most unexpected discoveries could lead us back to ourselves. Morning light crept through Jared's blinds, finding him already awake, staring at the ceiling. He hadn't slept well, his dreams filled with fragments of Isadora's words and imagined scenes of her life. The blue diary sat on his nightstand, both an invitation and a challenge. His morning routine, usually a mindless sequence of actions, felt different today. Each movement came with a whisper of doubt. As he pulled on a clean grey t-shirt and his least worn pair of jeans, Jared caught his reflection in the bathroom mirror. Dark circles shadowed his blue-grey eyes, and his light brown waves were a mess. He made an attempt to tame them, then stopped mid-motion. Who was he trying to impress? The answer came unbidden, a woman who didn't know he existed. Miller's Diner wasn't hard to find. It sat on the corner of Madison and 4th, its neon sign flickering half-heartedly in the morning sun. Jared had walked past it countless times without really seeing it. Now, standing across the street, his heart hammered against his ribs. Through the large windows he could see waitresses moving efficiently between tables, none of them matching the image of Isadora he'd constructed from her words. His fingers found the cord around his neck, twisting it nervously. 5 years of carefully constructed isolation trembled at the thought of walking through those doors. In his pocket, his phone buzzed, a reminder of his actual responsibilities. The software company where he worked remotely didn't care about lost diaries or mysterious women. They just wanted their code debugged by deadline. Just coffee, he muttered to himself. Order coffee. Ask a few questions. Simple. The bell above the door chimed as he entered, making him wince. A cheerful waitress with graying hair and a name tag reading Betty approached. Sit anywhere you like, honey. Coffee? Jared nodded, sliding into a booth near the window. His fingers drummed against the laminate tabletop as he waited, rehearsing questions in his head. Each version sounded more awkward than the last. How do you ask about someone without sounding like a stalker? Betty returned with his coffee. Ready to order? Actually, Jared's voice cracked slightly. He cleared his throat and tried again. I'm looking for someone who works here. Isadora? Betty's friendly expression shifted slightly. Isa? She's not on till later. You a friend of hers? The protective note in Betty's voice was clear. Of course they'd be protective of her. Jared fumbled with the diary in his messenger bag, pulling it out carefully. No, I found this. On the bus. I thought she might want it back. Betty's eyes softened at the sight of the familiar blue cover. Oh, her diary. Poor thing's been worried sick about losing it. She's been checking lost and found boxes all over town. Relief flooded through Jared, followed immediately by new anxiety. Could you give it to her? When she comes in? Betty studied him for a moment, her experienced eyes taking in his nervous demeanor, his clean but shabby clothes, the genuine concern in his expression. She works the dinner shift today, starts at 5. Why don't you come back then? Give it to her yourself. I'm sure she'd like to thank you properly. Jared's instinct was to refuse, to leave the diary and retreat back to his safe, predictable life. But something made him nod instead. Okay, 5 o'clock. The rest of the day passed in a blur of unfocused coding attempts and compulsive clock checking. Jared tried to work, but his thoughts kept drifting to the diary's contents. He'd read more last night, each entry revealing new layers of Isadora's life. She wrote about singing silly songs with Tony while doing the dishes, about the time he'd gotten sick, and she'd stayed up all night watching him breathe. There were entries about her online business classes, dreams of opening her own small catering company someday. Between the lines, he read her determination, her fierce love for her son, and a loneliness she never directly named, but that echoed through her words. At 4:30, Jared changed his shirt twice before settling on the original one he'd worn that morning. He ran his fingers through his hair, gave up on making it behave, and headed back to the diner. The dinner rush was just beginning when he arrived. He chose the same booth as that morning, the diary a reassuring weight in his bag. Betty spotted him and gave an approving nod, but made no move to approach. The minutes ticked by with excruciating slowness. At precisely 5:07 p.m., she walked in through the back door of the diner. Jared's breath caught. The Isadora before him was both exactly as he'd imagined and completely different. She moved with a quiet grace, her practical black work shoes silent on the checkered floor. Her hair was styled in neat box braids pulled back into a practical bun, and her uniform, though standard diner issue, somehow looked elegant on her curved frame. But it was her eyes that held him, deep brown and sharp with intelligence, carrying both strength and weariness. She headed straight for the break room, emerging moments later with her apron tied and a small notepad in hand. Betty intercepted her, speaking in low tones and gesturing toward Jared's booth. He watched Isadora's expression change, surprise, confusion, then something unreadable as she turned to look at him. Their eyes met across the diner. Jared's hand automatically went to the cord at his neck, but he forced it down. Isadora said something to Betty, then walked toward him with measured steps. "Betty says you found my diary?" Her voice was lower than he'd expected, with a hint of natural huskiness that made his pulse quicken. Up close he could see the faint shadows under her eyes, evidence of the long hours she wrote about. "Yes." He pulled the diary from his bag, holding it out. "On the bus. Route 27. Isadora reached for it, her fingers brushing his briefly as she took it. A jolt of electricity seemed to pass between them at the contact. She clutched the diary to her chest, relief evident in the slight relaxation of her shoulders. "Thank you. I've been—" She paused, studying him more carefully. "Did you read it?" The question hung between them. Jared could lie, make this interaction simpler, safer, but something about her direct gaze demanded honesty. "Yes," he admitted quietly. "I needed to figure out who it belonged to return it." Her expression hardened slightly. "So you know all about me and my son, our whole life story?" "Not all," Jared said, surprising himself with his steadiness. "Just enough to know the diary needed to get back to you." Isadora's fingers tightened on the blue cover. "Why didn't you just turn it in to Lost and Found?" Jared struggled to find the right words. How could he explain that her words had awakened something in him, that for the first time in years he'd felt a connection to another human being? "I wanted to make sure it got back to you safely. It seemed important." She studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Finally, she nodded slightly. "Well, thank you. I should get to work." "Of course." Jared reached for his wallet. "Let me leave something for the coffee." "It's on the house," Isadora said firmly. "For returning my diary." She turned to leave, then paused. "I'm Isadora, but you already knew that." "Jared," he offered. "Jared Whitmore." A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "Thanks again, Jared Whitmore." He watched her walk away, moving efficiently between tables as she started her shift. The diary was safely back with its owner. He should leave, go back to his quiet life, his comfortable isolation. Instead, he found himself ordering dinner, something he hadn't done in a public place for longer than he could remember. Throughout his meal, he caught glimpses of Isadora working, the way she remembered every customer's specific requests, how she handled a dropped plate with calm efficiency, the gentle way she helped an elderly man read the menu in the dim light. She was everything her diary suggested and more, a quiet force of nature moving through the world with purpose. As he prepared to leave, Betty appeared with his check. "You did good bringing that back to her," she said softly. "She needs a few more good things in her life." Jared nodded, unable to find words. He left a generous tip and headed for the door. As he reached it, he heard Isadora's voice ring out clear and warm, singing along to something on the diner's radio as she cleared tables. The sound followed him out into the evening air, a melody that would echo in his dreams that night. Walking home, Jared realized his hand hadn't gone to the cord around his neck once during their entire interaction. For the first time in years, he'd been too focused on someone else to remember his own ghosts. For the next week, Jared's feet seemed to develop a mind of their own. Each day they carried him to Miller's diner during Isadora's shift, despite his brain's logical protests. He'd sit in the same booth, order coffee and whatever daily special Betty recommended, and try not to stare too obviously at Isadora as she worked. She knew he was there. He caught her watching him sometimes, her dark eyes curious and cautious in equal measure. They didn't speak beyond her taking his order, but something was building in those silent exchanges. A tension, a possibility, a question neither of them was ready to ask. On the 8th day, everything changed. The bell above the door chimed, and a small whirlwind burst into the diner. "Mommy, Mommy, look what I drawed!" Jared's head snapped up at the sound. A tiny boy with a bright Spider-Man backpack nearly as big as he was came bouncing through the restaurant, dark curls bouncing with each step. In his hand, he clutched a piece of paper like it was treasure. "Tony, baby," inside voice. Isadora called from behind the counter, but her smile was radiant. She quickly finished pouring coffee for an elderly couple and made her way to her son. An older woman followed Tony in, smiling apologetically. "Sorry, Isa. He couldn't wait to show you his art project." "It's fine, Mrs. Peterson. Thank you for bringing him by." Isadora knelt down to Tony's level. "Now, what did my little artist create today?" Tony thrust the paper forward proudly. "It's our family, see? That's you and that's me and that's Spider-Man 'cause he protects us." Something in Jared's chest tightened as he watched Isadora's face. She maintained her bright smile, but he recognized the flash of pain in her eyes, the same pain that had bled through her diary entries when she wrote about Tony asking about his father. "It's beautiful, baby," she said, pulling Tony close. "We'll put it right on the fridge when we get home. Now why don't you sit at the counter and have some milk and cookies while Mommy finishes her shift?" "Can I have chocolate milk?" Tony's whole face lit up with hope. "Just this once," Isadora agreed, ruffling his curls. Mrs. Peterson left after a brief conversation with Isadora about pickup times for the next day. Tony settled at the counter, legs swinging happily as Betty fussed over him, producing chocolate milk and a small plate of cookies as if by magic. Jared watched the scene unfold, feeling like an intruder in this intimate family moment. He should leave. He'd finished his coffee ages ago, but before he could move, Tony's head swiveled in his direction, curious brown eyes landing on him with the direct, unfiltered interest only children possess. "Why do you come here every day?" Tony asked, loud enough to draw attention from several nearby tables. Jared froze. Isadora, who had been filling salt shakers nearby, stopped mid-motion. "I like the coffee," Jared managed, his face warming. Tony considered this, head tilted. "But you look at my mommy more than your coffee." The salt shaker Isadora was holding clattered against the counter. A few customers chuckled. Jared wished the floor would open up and swallow him whole. "Anthony James Monroe." Isadora's voice was stern but gentle. "What did we say about asking personal questions to strangers?" "But he's not a stranger," Tony protested. "He's the diary man. I heard you tell Betty." Jared risked a glance at Isadora. She was looking anywhere but at him, her cheeks darkened slightly with embarrassment. "Tony, why don't you show me your drawing?" Jared found himself saying, surprising everyone, including himself. Tony's face lit up. He grabbed his masterpiece and slid off his stool, making his way to Jared's booth before anyone could stop him. "See? That's me and Mommy. And that's Spider-Man 'cause he's the strongest, and these are the stars 'cause Mommy says Grandma turned into a star and watches over us." Jared leaned forward, studying the crayon creation with genuine interest. "This is really good. I like how you made Spider-Man's web silver." "You know about Spider-Man?" Tony's eyes widened with delight. "A little bit," Jared admitted. In truth, he'd spent some time researching the superhero after reading about Tony's obsession in Isadora's diary. "Did you know his real name is Peter Parker?" "Uh-huh. And he lives in New York and helps people." Tony bounced on his toes. "Do you like Spider-Man too?" "Tony." Isadora appeared beside their booth, her expression a complex mix of emotions. "Let's let Mr. Whitmore enjoy his coffee in peace." "Jared," he corrected softly. "Please, just Jared." Their eyes met, and something shifted in the air between them. Tony, oblivious to the tension, continued chattering about Spider-Man. "Mommy, can Jared eat with us sometime? He knows about Spider-Man." "Baby, I'm sure Jared is very busy." "Actually," Jared interrupted, heart pounding so hard he could barely hear his own voice, "I'd like that. If you're comfortable with it." Isadora's fingers went to one of her braids, twirling it slightly, a nervous gesture he recognized from her diary descriptions. She studied him for a long moment, and Jared forced himself to meet her gaze steadily. "Sunday," she said finally. "I'm off Sunday afternoons. We usually have lunch at the park near Pine Street Elementary, around 1 o'clock. "Really?" Tony's excitement was contagious. "Can you come, Jared? Please." Jared smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. I'd love to. After they left, Tony waving enthusiastically until he was out of sight, Jared sat in his booth slightly dazed by what had just happened. Betty appeared with a fresh cup of coffee he hadn't ordered. "That boy," she said, shaking her head fondly, "has better instincts than most adults I know." "What do you mean?" Betty's wise eyes crinkled at the corners. "He sees what's real. And you, honey, despite all that careful distance you try to keep, you're real." That night in his quiet apartment, Jared did something he hadn't done in years. He went online and ordered a book, The Ultimate Spider-Man Guide for New Fans. If he was going to have lunch with a 3-year-old superhero enthusiast, he needed to be prepared. As he got ready for bed, his hand went to the cord around his neck, but this time, instead of anxiety, he felt something different. Hope, maybe, or the beginning of healing. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Isadora. Betty gave me your number. Just wanted to say Tony hasn't stopped talking about you. No pressure about Sunday, but it would mean a lot to him if you came." Jared stared at the message for a long time, a warm feeling spreading through his chest. Finally he typed back, "I'll be there. Should I bring anything?" Her response came quickly. "Just yourself. That seems to be enough for Tony." Jared fell asleep with a smile on his face, dreaming not of past ghosts but of future possibilities, of park benches and Spider-Man stories, of chocolate milk and curious questions, of brave women who wrote their hearts in blue diaries, and little boys who saw what was real. Sunday dawned bright and crisp, the kind of autumn day that painted the world in golden light. Jared stood in front of his closet, the Spider-Man guidebook tucked under his arm, fighting an absurd urge to change his shirt for the 4th time. He finally settled on a dark blue Henley that made his blue-grey eyes look less tired, and his least worn pair of jeans. The park near Pine Street Elementary was small but well maintained, with ancient oak trees providing patches of shade over worn wooden benches. Jared arrived 20 minutes early, his stomach doing nervous flips as he waited. The book felt heavy in his messenger bag, along with something else he'd picked up on impulse, a small Spider-Man action figure still in its package. At precisely 1:03 p.m., he heard Tony before he saw him. "Jared, you came!" The little boy's voice carried across the park, pure joy in every syllable. He ran ahead of his mother, curls bouncing, Spider-Man backpack securely in place. Isadora followed at a more measured pace, carrying a canvas tote bag. She wore simple black leggings and an oversized cream sweater that softened her usual practical appearance. Her braids were loose today, falling past her shoulders, and Jared had to remind himself to breathe. "Careful, Tony," she called out, but the boy was already at Jared's bench, practically vibrating with excitement. "Did you bring anything, Spider-Man?" Tony asked, climbing onto the bench beside Jared without hesitation. "Mommy said not to ask, but Anthony," Isadora warned, reaching them with an apologetic smile, "let's at least say hello properly first." Jared surprised them both by pulling the action figure from his bag. "Actually, I did bring something, but your mom's right. Hello first." Tony's eyes went wide at the sight of the package, but he obediently stood up straight. "Hello, Jared. Thank you for coming to our picnic." "Thank you for inviting me," Jared replied seriously, fighting back a smile at the boy's formal tone. Isadora set her tote bag down, pulling out a worn picnic blanket. "Tony, help me spread this under the oak tree." They worked together to set up their picnic spot, Tony chattering the whole time about his week at daycare, his favorite sandwich, peanut butter and banana, and how he'd seen a dog that looked just like Spider-Man's friend's dog. Jared found himself relaxing despite his nerves, drawn in by the boy's infectious enthusiasm. "Can I open it now?" Tony asked once they were settled, eyeing the action figure that Jared still held. Isadora started to say something about patience, but Jared caught her eye. "It's okay," he said softly. At her slight nod, he handed the package to Tony. The boy's reaction was everything Jared had hoped for. "Mom, look, it's the new one, with the special web shooters." He traced the package reverently with small fingers. "Can I open it?" "What do we say?" Isadora prompted, but her eyes were on Jared, something soft in their depths. "Thank you, Jared. This is the best present ever." While Tony carefully opened his new treasure, Isadora pulled containers from her tote bag. "I hope you like chicken salad sandwiches. I made extra, just in case." "I love them," Jared said, though he couldn't remember the last time he'd had one. "Can I help with anything?" She handed him paper plates and napkins, their fingers brushing briefly. "You've already done more than enough. That action figure, you didn't have to." "I wanted to," Jared admitted, "and I got something else." He pulled out the Spider-Man guidebook. "I thought maybe we could look at it together, Tony. if that's okay with your mum. Tony abandoned his half-opened action figure, scrambling closer. A Spider-Man book? Mom, look. I see, baby. Isadora's voice was slightly husky. That's very thoughtful, Jared. They settled into a comfortable rhythm, sharing sandwiches, which were genuinely the best chicken salad Jared had ever tasted, while Tony alternated between playing with his new action figure and asking Jared to read sections from the guidebook. His questions were endless, each one making Jared grateful for his late-night research sessions. Why doesn't Spider-Man's web get tangled? How does he stick to walls? Does he ever get scared? Jared answered each question patiently, occasionally catching Isadora watching them with an unreadable expression. When Tony ran off to the nearby playground, staying within their sight, but giving the adults a moment alone, she finally spoke. You're good with him. Jared shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. He makes it easy. He's a great kid. Yes, he is. Isadora was quiet for a moment, absently gathering sandwich crumbs from the blanket. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you really come back to the diner after returning the diary? The question hung between them, heavy with unspoken implications. Jared touched the cord around his neck, then deliberately lowered his hand. Because your words, he paused, searching for the right way to explain. They woke something up in me, something I thought was dead. What do you mean? I've been hiding, I guess, for a long time. From people, from connections, from everything real. He watched Tony on the swings, his small face full of joy. But reading your diary, I know I shouldn't have, but it made me feel less alone. Your strength, your struggles, the way you keep going no matter what. It made me want to try again, to be part of the world. Isadora's fingers went to her braids, twirling one end. I should be angry that you read it. Those were private thoughts. I know, I'm sorry. But, she continued, I'm not angry. Not anymore. Maybe because she gestured to Tony, who was now showing his new action figure to another child. Look at him. He's so happy today. He needs more of that in his life. So do you, Jared said softly. Their eyes met, and for a moment the autumn air seemed charged with possibility. Then Tony's voice broke the spell. Mom, Jared, watch me jump. They spent the rest of the afternoon moving between the picnic blanket and the playground, sharing stories and comfortable silences. Jared learned that Isadora hummed when she was content, usually old soul songs her grandmother had taught her. She discovered that he could do a surprisingly good impression of various Spider-Man villains, much to Tony's delight. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the park, Tony's energy finally began to flag. He curled up on the blanket, head resting against his mother's leg, new action figure clutched to his chest. We should get him home, Isadora said softly, running her fingers through Tony's curls. Jared helped pack up the remains of their picnic, trying to ignore the hollow feeling growing in his chest at the thought of the day ending. As they walked to Isadora's car, Tony drowsily insisted on holding both his mother's hand and Jared's, creating a chain between them. At the car, while Isadora buckled a half-asleep Tony into his car seat, Jared gathered his courage. Would it be okay? Could we maybe do this again sometime? Isadora straightened up, closing the car door gently. Tony would love that. And you? She smiled, a real smile that lit up her entire face. I would love that too. Next Sunday? Next Sunday, she agreed. Then, surprising them both, she stepped forward and hugged him quickly. Thank you for today, for everything. Jared stood in the parking lot long after they'd driven away, the warmth of her hug lingering. His phone buzzed with a text. Tony made me promise to tell you that you're officially part of his superhero team now. No backing out allowed. Isadora. For the first time in 5 years, Jared felt truly, completely alive. He touched the cord around his neck one last time, then tucked it inside his shirt. Today wasn't about the past. Today was about possibilities, about little boys with big hearts, and about brave women who gave second chances to broken men who were finally ready to heal. The next few weeks brought subtle shifts to their lives, like waves gradually reshaping a shoreline. Jared still came to the diner daily, but now Tony's Spider-Man backpack often rested in the booth beside him while he helped the boy with simple addition worksheets from daycare. Isadora's breaks, once spent hidden in the back with her textbooks, now found her sliding into the booth across from them, stealing French fries from Jared's plate while reviewing her business course materials. On this particular Wednesday afternoon, Jared watched Tony's tongue poke out in concentration as he carefully wrote numbers in his workbook. 7 + 3 =. Tony drew the numbers with painstaking precision. "Think about it like web shooters," Jared suggested, something they'd developed over their study sessions. "If Spider-Man has 7 webs on one building and 3 on another, 10 webs total." Tony's face lit up with understanding. "Like this." He wrote the number 10 with pride. "Perfect." Jared high-fived him, catching Isadora's smile from where she was refilling coffee cups across the room. Betty appeared with a fresh chocolate milk for Tony and coffee for Jared. "You're good at this," she said quietly, nodding toward Tony. "Both the math and the Spider-Man stuff." "He makes it easy," Jared replied, his standard response to such observations. But the truth was more complex. These moments in the diner had become the highlight of his days, bringing color to his formerly grayscale existence. His phone buzzed, a work email about code that needed debugging. The software company had noticed his improved productivity lately, not knowing it stemmed from the joy of having someone, to look forward to each day. "Jared?" Tony's voice pulled him back. "Can you help me with this one? It's hard. Let's see what we've got." The diner's door chimed and a gust of autumn wind swept in along with a well-dressed man in an expensive coat. Jared noticed Isadora stiffen slightly before approaching the new customer. "Welcome to Miller's. Table or booth?" the man's voice carried across the diner. "Actually, I'm here to discuss your application, Ms. Monroe. I'm Richard Blackwell from the Small Business Development Center." Jared watched Isadora's professional mask slip slightly. He knew from her diary and their conversations that she'd applied for a small business grant, hoping to start her catering company. She'd been waiting weeks for a response. "Oh, yes, of course. I'm in the middle of my shift. This won't take long." Blackwell's tone was clipped efficient. Betty appeared like a guardian angel. "Go on, Isa. Take 15 minutes. I've got your tables." Isadora led Blackwell to a booth far from where Jared and Tony sat. Though they spoke in low voices, the tension in Isadora's shoulders was visible. "Why does Mommy look sad?" Tony whispered, his worksheet forgotten. Jared struggled for the right words. "She's not sad, buddy. She's just having an important conversation about her dreams." "About her food business? She makes the best food ever." Tony stated this as an indisputable fact. "She really does." They watched as Blackwell pulled out papers, his expression growing sterner. Isadora's hands were clasped tightly in her lap, a gesture Jared recognized from her diary as one of contained anxiety. Without thinking, Jared pulled out his phone and typed a quick message. "You've got this. Remember what you wrote in your diary. Dreams don't have deadlines." Whatever he says, you're still on your path. He saw her check her phone under the table, saw the tiny release of tension in her shoulders. She straightened up, her voice becoming clearer, more confident as she responded to whatever Blackwell was saying. Tony tugged at Jared's sleeve. "Can we make Mommy a picture? To make her happy? That's a great idea." Jared pulled a clean sheet from Tony's workbook, and they spent the next few minutes creating what Tony declared was a business cartoon. Stick figures of customers lined up for Isadora's famous chicken salad sandwiches, with Spider-Man giving a thumbs up in the corner. When Blackwell finally left, his departure marked by the sharp click of expensive shoes, Isadora remained in the booth for a moment, staring at the papers he'd left. Then, with deliberate movements, she stood, smoothed her apron and walked to their booth. "How's the math going, baby?" "We made you something." Tony thrust the drawing at her. "See? It's your restaurant, and everyone loves it." Isadora took the paper, her eyes suspiciously bright. "It's perfect, sweetie." She met Jared's gaze over Tony's head. "Thank you. Everything okay?" he asked softly. She sat down beside Tony, pulling him close. They want more detailed financial projections. Said my current plan isn't robust enough." Her finger traced the Spider-Man figure in the drawing. "I have 2 weeks to revise everything." "I could help," Jared offered. "I'm good with numbers, and between my tech experience and your food service knowledge, I couldn't ask you to—" "You're not asking, I'm offering." He leaned forward, voice low and earnest. "Let me help, Isadora, please." She studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay, but I can't pay you. How about you pay me in chicken salad sandwiches?" His attempt at lightening the mood worked. She laughed, the sound warming him from the inside out. "Deal." She squeezed Tony close one more time before standing. "I should get back to work, but maybe you could come over this weekend to work on the projections." Jared's heart skipped. In all their weeks of diner meetings and park Sundays, he'd never been to their home. "I'd like that." "Saturday morning. Tony has his swimming lesson, so we'd have quiet time to work." "Perfect." After they left that evening, Tony insisting on his now routine goodbye hug, Isadora's fingers lingering on Jared's arm as she thanked him again. Betty brought him a slice of pie he hadn't ordered. "On the house," she said, her wise eyes twinkling. "You know, I've worked here 15 years. Watched Isa struggle and grow, seen her fight for every inch of ground she's gained. Never seen her let anyone help her before." Jared cut into the pie, considering this. "She helps everyone else. Sometimes it's harder to accept help than to give it. Sounds like you know something about that yourself." Betty patted his shoulder. "You're good for each other, you know, all three of you." That night in his apartment, Jared did something he hadn't done since college. He pulled out an old whiteboard and started mapping out ideas for Isadora's business plan. His software development experience had taught him about market analysis and financial projections. He could translate that knowledge to help her dream become reality. His phone buzzed with a text from Isadora. "Tony made me promise to tell you that you're his hero for helping with math today. But really, thank you for everything." Jared smiled, typing back, "Thank you for letting me be part of your world." Her response came quickly. "Our world. You're part of our world now." The cord around his neck, once a constant reminder of past pain, now felt lighter somehow, as if making space in his heart for Isadora, and Tony had begun to heal old wounds he'd thought would hurt forever. He worked late into the night, filling the whiteboard with ideas and numbers driven by a new purpose, helping the woman who'd awakened his heart build the future she deserved. When exhaustion finally claimed him, he dreamed not of past regrets, but of future possibilities, of a small cafe filled with love and laughter, of a little boy's proud smile, of dark eyes that held all the warmth he'd been missing from his life. Saturday morning found Jared standing outside a modest apartment complex, double-checking the address Isadora had texted him. His laptop bag felt heavy on his shoulder, filled with printouts of market research and financial templates he'd prepared. The whiteboard calculations from his late-night planning sessions had been carefully transferred into neat spreadsheets. He checked his watch, 9:47 a.m., early for their 10-hour meeting, but he couldn't stand waiting in his apartment any longer. His finger hovered over the buzzer for apartment 3B. The door suddenly swung open, revealing a small woman shepherding several children toward a waiting van. She held the door for him with a knowing smile. "You must be Jared. Isadora said to watch for you." "Third floor, honey." The building's interior was worn but well-maintained, with cheerful children's artwork decorating the hallway walls. As Jared climbed the stairs, he caught snippets of Saturday morning life, television sounds, cooking smells, a baby crying somewhere. Normal sounds that had been absent from his own isolated existence for so long. He found 3B easily, its door distinguished by a small Spider-Man welcome mat. Before he could knock, the door opened, and Isadora appeared, slightly breathless. "I saw you through the window," she explained, stepping back to let him in. "Sorry about the mess. Morning rush to get Tony to swimming is always chaos." Their apartment was small but bright, with sunlight streaming through wide windows. The living room showed signs of a hasty cleanup. Toys partially tucked into a colorful storage bin, a stack of textbooks beside the couch, a collection of framed photos on the walls showing Tony at various ages. It felt lived in, warm, real. "It's perfect," Jared said honestly. Isadora ducked her head, suddenly self-conscious. She wore simple black leggings and an oversized purple sweater that slipped off one shoulder. Her braids pulled into a messy bun. "Mrs. Peterson from downstairs took Tony to swimming with her grandson. We have about 2 hours." "Right, the business plan." Jared set his bag down, trying to maintain professional focus despite the intimacy of being in her home. "I brought some ideas." A timer dinged in the kitchen, and a heavenly smell wafted through the apartment. "Oh, the muffins!" Isadora hurried to the kitchen, calling over her shoulder. "Make yourself comfortable. I stress bake when I'm nervous about something." Jared followed her, drawn by both the smell and her words. "You're nervous?" She pulled a tray of golden brown muffins from the oven, the domestic normalcy of the scene making his heart ache. "About the business plan, about letting someone help me, about—" She set the tray down, not meeting his eyes. "About a lot of things. We don't have to—" "No," she cut him off, finally looking up. "I want to. I need to learn to accept help sometimes. It's just hard." Jared understood completely. They stood in comfortable silence while the muffins cooled, both processing the weight of what wasn't being said. Finally, Isadora broke the moment by handing him a muffin on a small plate. Banana chocolate chip, Tony's favorite. Is that why you make them? For Tony? She laughed softly. No, these are my comfort food. Been making them since college. The fact that Tony loves them is just a bonus. They settled at her small kitchen table, laptops open, muffins and coffee between them. Jared walked her through his initial ideas for the business plan, watching her eyes light up as possibilities began to take shape. See, if we structure the catering services in tiers, he explained, showing her the spreadsheet he'd created, you can start small, building your client base while maintaining your current job for stability. We? Isadora caught the pronoun, her dark eyes searching his face. Jared felt his face warm. I just meant, I want to help, if you want me to. She was quiet for a moment, fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. Why are you doing all this, Jared? Really? The question hung between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. Jared touched the cord around his neck, a habit that felt different now, less like hiding and more like gathering courage. Because you make me want to be part of something real again, he admitted softly. You and Tony, you've given me a reason to stop hiding. Hiding from what? He took a deep breath. If he was asking her to trust him with her dreams, he owed her the truth about his nightmares. 5 years ago I was engaged, he began, fingers tightening on the cord. Her name was Lily. She was everything I thought I wanted. We were perfect on paper, both in tech, both ambitious, both planning our perfect future. Isadora sat very still, waiting. She was driving home late one night after a dinner I'd cancelled because of work. A drunk driver. His voice cracked slightly. The cord was from her favorite hoodie. I keep it to remind myself that life is fragile, that love is dangerous. Oh, Jared! Isadora's hand found his across the table, warm and real. After that, I just stopped. Stopped trying, stopped connecting, stopped living, really. He met her eyes. Until I found your diary, until I read about your strength, your struggles, your love for Tony. It woke something up in me. And now, her voice was barely a whisper. Now I'm terrified, he admitted. Terrified of caring this much again. About you, about Tony, but more terrified of going back to not caring at all. Isadora's fingers tightened on his. I understand being scared. After Tony's father left, I promised myself I wouldn't let anyone close enough to hurt us again. What changed? You did, she smiled softly. You don't push, you don't demand. You just show up. You help with homework and make Spider-Man references and look at me like I'm something precious. You are. The words hung between them, too honest to take back, too real to ignore. Isadora stood slowly, still holding his hand, and moved around the table until she stood before him. Jared rose to meet her, their bodies drawn together like magnets finally released. We should be working on the business plan, she murmured, but her free hand came up to rest against his chest, just over his heart. We should, he agreed, but his other hand was already sliding into her hair, loosening her bun until her braids fell free around her shoulders. The first kiss was gentle, tentative, a question asked and answered in the press of lips and the mingling of breath. The second was deeper, years of loneliness and fear dissolving in the taste of chocolate chips and possibility. A key turned in the lock. They sprang apart, just as Mrs. Peterson's voice carried through the apartment. We're back. Someone did very well at swimming today. Tony burst into the kitchen, wet curls plastered to his head, beaming with pride. Jared, you're here. Did you try Mommy's magic muffins? Did you see my new swimming badge? Can we show you my underwater handstands next time? Jared caught Isadora's eye over Tony's head, saw the same mix of frustration and amusement he felt reflected there. Magic muffins, huh? They certainly are magical. Later, after Tony had been settled with his muffin and milk, excitedly recounting every detail of his swimming lesson, Jared's phone buzzed with a text. Stay for lunch. We should probably actually work on that business plan at some point. He looked up to find Isadora watching him, her lips still slightly swollen from their kiss, her eyes full of promises and possibilities. I'd love to, he typed back, then added, and Isadora, I'm not running away this time. Her response made his heart soar. Good, because we're not letting you go. The cord around his neck felt different now, less like a chain of grief, and more like a reminder that love, even when it hurts, is worth the risk. Watching Tony demonstrate his swimming moves on the living room carpet, while Isadora laughed from the kitchen, Jared knew with absolute certainty that some risks were worth taking twice. Life changed in subtle ways after that Saturday morning. Coffee breaks at the diner became filled with lingering touches and shared smiles. Their Sunday park visits now ended with gentle kisses stolen while Tony was absorbed in his playground adventures. The business plan sessions at Isadora's apartment frequently dissolved into conversations that ran deep into the night after Tony was asleep, their laptops forgotten as they shared pieces of themselves they'd kept hidden for so long. But with closeness came complications. On this particular evening, Jared sat at his usual booth in the diner, watching Isadora move between tables with practiced efficiency. Tony was beside him, unusually quiet, as he pushed his mashed potatoes around his plate. "Everything okay, buddy?" Jared asked, noting the absence of the boy's usual chatter about his day. Tony looked up, his brown eyes serious. "Are you going to be my new daddy?" The question hit Jared like a physical blow. Across the diner, he saw Isadora freeze mid-motion, close enough to have heard. The elderly couple she was serving looked between them with poorly concealed interest. Jared's throat felt tight. "Why do you ask that?" "Because you kiss mommy sometimes when you think I'm not looking." Tony's matter-of-fact tone made several nearby customers hide smiles behind their menus. "And you help me with homework and come to the park and make mommy laugh. That's what daddies do, right?" Isadora appeared at their table, her face carefully composed. "Tony, baby, remember what we talked about? About how families can look different?" But Jamie at daycare said, "Honey, could you go sit with Betty for a minute? I need to talk to Jared." Tony slid out of the booth, Spider-Man backpack in tow, but paused. "Did I say something wrong?" "No, sweetie." Isadora's voice was gentle. "You didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes grown-ups just need to talk about grown-up things." Once Tony was settled at the counter, immediately distracted by Betty's offer to help make milkshakes, Isadora sank into the booth across from Jared. Her fingers went to her braids, a sure sign of anxiety. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I should have seen this coming. He's been asking more questions lately about us, about what it means." Jared reached across the table, taking her hand. "Hey, it's okay. He's trying to make sense of changes in his life. That's normal, right? But it's not fair to you. We've barely figured out what we are ourselves, and now—" She pulled her hand back, wrapping her arms around herself. "Maybe we're moving too fast. Maybe we need to step back, think about—" "No!" The force in Jared's voice surprised them both. "Don't do that. Don't push me away because you're scared." "I'm not scared," she protested, but her eyes told a different story. "You are. And that's okay, I'm scared too." He leaned forward, voice low and intense. "But being scared doesn't mean we're doing something wrong. It means we're doing something real." Isadora's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. "He already loves you so much, Jared. If this doesn't work out, why wouldn't it work out? Because nothing in my life ever comes easy. Because people leave. Because Tony's father walked away," Jared finished softly. She nodded, a single tear escaping despite her control. "I'm not him, Isadora, and I'm not asking to be Tony's father, but I do love him. And you." The words slipped out before he could catch them, hanging in the air between them. Isadora's breath caught. "What did you say?" Jared touched the cord around his neck, then deliberately pulled it off for the first time in 5 years. He placed it on the table between them. "I love you, both of you. And it terrifies me because the last time I loved someone this much I lost everything. But staying away from you, trying to protect myself from pain, that would hurt more than any loss. Jared, I know it's complicated. I know we have a lot to figure out, but I'm not going anywhere, Isadora. Whether that means being Tony's friend, his mentor, or someday, something more. I'm here for as long as you'll have me." She stared at the cord on the table, understanding its significance. "You're really ready to let go?" "I already have. Every time Tony laughs at one of my bad Spider-Man jokes, every time you look at me like I'm worth trusting, every time we create another small moment of family together." He pushed the cord toward her. "The past is past. I want a future. With you." Isadora picked up the cord with trembling fingers. "What do you want me to do with this?" "Whatever you think is right. Keep it, throw it away, help me bury it in the park, I don't care. I just know I don't need it anymore." She stood suddenly, the cord clutched in her hand. "Tony, baby, come here a minute." Tony bounced over from the counter, chocolate milkshake mustache adorning his upper lip. "Yes, Mommy? Remember how you asked about Jared being part of our family?" At Tony's nod, she continued. "Well, families are built on trust and love and choices, and sometimes, when we're ready to be a family, we share special things with each other. Like how you shared your favorite Spider-Man comic with Jared last week." Tony's eyes widened with understanding. "Is Jared sharing something special with us?" "Yes, he is. Isadora knelt down to Tony's level. This cord was something very important to Jared, from someone he loved who had to go away to heaven, and he's choosing to share it with us, to trust us with it. What do you think we should do with something so special? Tony thought for a moment, his face serious. We should put it in my treasure box, with Grandma's special necklace and my first swimming badge. Jared felt his throat tighten with emotion. The treasure box was Tony's most prized possession, a decorated shoebox where he kept his most important memories. Are you sure, baby? It's a big responsibility. Tony nodded solemnly. We'll keep it safe, Jared. Promise. Then his face lit up. Does this mean you're staying, like forever? Jared looked at Isadora, saw the love and trust shining in her eyes despite her tears. If that's what you both want. Yes! Tony threw himself into Jared's arms. Can we tell Jamie at daycare that I was right? That families can look different but still be perfect? Isadora laughed through her tears, joining their hug. Yes, baby. You can tell him exactly that. Later that night, after Tony had carefully placed the cord in his treasure box between his grandmother's costume jewelry and his swimming achievements, after they'd had dinner together in the small apartment that felt more like home than any place Jared had lived in years, after Tony had fallen asleep listening to them both read his bedtime story, Isadora and Jared stood in her tiny kitchen. Are you sure about this? She asked one last time. About us? Jared pulled her close, breathing in the scent of her hair. More sure than I've ever been about anything. Even with all the complications, the mess, the fact that you're not just getting me, but a whole ready-made family with a curious 3-year-old who asks impossible questions? Especially because of all that. He kissed her softly. You and Tony, you're not complications. You're completion. From Tony's room came the sound of his quiet breathing, peaceful and trusting. Outside, the city continued its night rhythm, but in that small kitchen, wrapped in each other's arms, they were building something new, a bridge between past and future, between solitude and family, between broken pieces and the beautiful whole they could become together. 2 months into their new normal, reality decided to test their foundations. It started with a simple email that arrived while Jared and Isadora were finalizing her business plan late one evening, Tony asleep in his room, clutching his Spider-Man plush. No, 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 Isadora muttered, staring at her laptop screen, her fingers twisted anxiously in her braids. Jared looked up from the financial projections he'd been tweaking. What's wrong? Mrs. Peterson is closing the daycare. Her husband's sick. They're moving to Florida to be near their children. Isadora's voice trembled. She's given us 2 weeks' notice. The implications hit hard. Mrs. Peterson's daycare wasn't just convenient and affordable, it was flexible with Isadora's irregular work hours, understanding about occasional late payments, and most importantly, a place where Tony felt safe and loved. We'll figure something out, Jared said, reaching for her hand. How? Other daycares in the area either have long waiting lists or cost twice as much. I can't afford... She stopped abruptly, catching herself. I mean, I'll figure something out. Jared noticed the shift from we to I, felt the subtle way she pulled back. Isadora, it's fine. It's my problem to solve. She stood, starting to pace the small living room. Maybe I can switch to morning shifts only or find someone in the building who can watch him or you could let me help. She stopped pacing. Jared, no. You've already done so much with the business plan and I love you, both of you. He stood, moving to block her pacing path. That means sharing problems, not just good times. You can't just throw money at this. It's not that simple. I know it's not, but we can look at options together. He caught her hands, stilling their nervous movement. What if I adjusted my work schedule? I could work from here some mornings, watch Tony until your shift ends. That's too much to ask. You're not asking, I'm offering. He pulled her closer, feeling the tension in her body. Remember what you told Tony about families? About trust and choices? She relaxed slightly against him. Using my own words against me isn't fair. Neither is pushing me away when things get hard. A small sound from the hallway made them both turn. Tony stood there in his Spider-Man pajamas, clutching his plush toy. Mommy, are you crying? Isadora quickly wiped her eyes. No, baby. Mommy's just tired. What are you doing up? I had a bad dream. Tony padded over to them. The bad guys were trying to take Spider-Man's home away. Jared and Isadora exchanged looks over his head. Even in sleep, children absorbed their parents' anxieties. Come here, buddy. Jared lifted Tony into his arms, an action that had become natural over the past months. Nobody's taking anyone's home away. We're just figuring out some grown-up stuff. About my school. I heard Ms. Peterson telling the other kids we have to say goodbye. Isadora stroked Tony's curls. Yes, baby. Miss Peterson needs to move away to take care of her family, but we're going to find you a new school, with new friends. Can't I just stay with Jared? Tony asked sleepily, his head resting on Jared's shoulder. He knows all the Spider-Man stories, and he helps with numbers, and he makes you smile even when you're scared. The simple logic of a child, cutting straight to the heart of matters. Isadora's eyes met Jared's over Tony's curls. Actually, Jared said carefully, that's what we were talking about. Would you like that? Spending mornings with me while Mummy's at work? Tony lifted his head, suddenly more awake. Really? Every day? If that's what Mummy thinks is best. They both looked at Isadora. She was quiet for a long moment, emotions playing across her face. We'd need to set clear boundaries, she said finally, and I'd need to adjust my work schedule. And we'd have to figure out payment. No payment, Jared cut in firmly. Family doesn't charge family. Jared, how about this? He shifted Tony to one arm, reaching for her hand with his free one. You let me help with childcare, and you help me remember how to live instead of just exist. Seems like a fair trade to me. Tony patted Jared's cheek with a small hand. Plus, I can teach you all about being a superhero, 'cause that's what families do. They help each other be super. A laugh burst from Isadora, wet with unshed tears. When did my baby get so wise? Must be all those Spider-Man stories, Jared grinned, teaching him about responsibility and stuff. With great power comes great responsibility, Tony quoted proudly, though his words were interrupted by a yawn. And with great yawns come bedtime, Isadora said. Again, let's get you tucked in, baby. They walked together to Tony's room, now decorated with not just Spider-Man posters, but also drawings they'd done together during their diner homework sessions. Tony insisted they both kiss him goodnight, a ritual that had developed naturally over the past months. Back in the living room, Isadora turned to Jared. Are you sure about this? Really sure? It's a huge commitment, and if it doesn't work out, then we'll figure something else out. Together. He pulled her close. I know you're used to handling everything alone, but you don't have to anymore. She was quiet for a moment, then whispered, I'm trying to learn that, to trust it, to trust you. I know, and I'm trying to learn how to be worthy of that trust. He kissed her softly. Let me prove it to you day by day. By babysitting? By being here, in all the ways that matter. She nodded against his chest. Okay, but we're doing this properly. Written schedules, backup plans, everything documented. The business planner in you never sleeps, does it? Hey, you're the one who taught me about detailed projections and contingency planning. True. He smiled into her hair. Speaking of planning, how about we look at moving? She pulled back slightly. What? My lease is up next month. This building has 3 bedroom units. If we're going to do this, build a life together, maybe it's time to think about space for all of us. Jared, her voice held a mix of hope and fear. Are you asking us to move in together? I'm asking us to consider it, to plan for it maybe when you're ready. He traced her cheek with his fingers. No pressure, no rush, just something to think about. Before she could respond, Tony's voice carried from his room. Can my new room have Spider-Man wallpaper? They burst out laughing. Go to sleep, Tony, Isadora called back, but her eyes were shining as she looked at Jared. Guess he's voting yes on the moving plan, Jared said softly. Guess so. She kissed him, a kiss full of promise and possibility. But for now, let's focus on these next 2 weeks. One challenge at a time, one step at a time, he agreed, building our future together, day by day. Later, as they finally returned to the business plan, their hands kept finding each other across the table, small touches that spoke of trust, of love, of the choice to face life's challenges together. Outside, the city hummed its nighttime melody. Inside, in a small apartment filled with children's drawings and dreams of tomorrow, a family was growing stronger, learning that sometimes the best foundations are built not on perfect plans, but on perfect trust. And this is where the kitchen supplies would go, Isadora explained, pointing to the layout sketched on the whiteboard. They stood in her small living room, now dominated by presentation materials for her meeting with the Small Business Development Center tomorrow. I've itemized everything down to the last spatula. Jared studied the detailed plans they'd spent weeks perfecting. The financial projections are solid. You've thought of everything. Thanks to you. She bumped his shoulder gently. I never would have gotten this far without your help. You would have, maybe just not as quickly. He wrapped an arm around her waist. You're the one with the vision, the talent, and the determination. I just helped with the numbers. A crash from Tony's room interrupted their moment, followed by a small voice. I'm okay, Spider-Man just did a really big jump. They shared a knowing look. The past month of their new routine, Jared watching Tony in the mornings while working remotely, Isadora taking more regular day shifts at the diner, had been full of such moments. Small crashes, impromptu superhero adventures, and the gradual blending of 3 lives into one. Should we check on him? Jared asked. Give it a minute. If we don't hear another crash, bigger this time. Okay, yes, we should check. They found Tony standing amid a pile of books, his Spider-Man action figure clutched triumphantly overhead. I was showing him how to swing from the bookshelf to the bed, like in the park. The park has actual swings, baby, Isadora said, trying to hide her smile as they helped him clean up. And they're much safer than bookshelves. But Jared said heroes have to be brave and try new things, Tony protested. I think I said heroes have to be smart about taking risks, Jared corrected gently, returning books to their shelf, like how Spider-Man always checks his web shooters before swinging between buildings. Tony considered this seriously. Oh, so I should make sure the books are steady before making Spidey jump. How about we stick to jumping on the floor? Isadora suggested, kissing his curls. Now it's getting late. Time to get ready for bed. Can Jared tell me a story? About when he was scared to try something new? The request caught Jared off guard. He glanced at Isadora, who nodded encouragingly. Actually, he said, settling on Tony's bed, I have a story about that. About being scared to love people again after losing someone special. Tony climbed into his lap, a position that had become natural over the past months. Were you scared like Spider-Man when he thought he lost Mary Jane? Something like that. But then I found your mom's diary, and I learned that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is open our hearts again. Even when it's scary. Especially when it's scary. Jared met Isadora's eyes over Tony's head, because the best things in life, like love and family, are worth being brave for. Later, after Tony was asleep and they'd returned to the business presentation materials, Isadora grew quiet. What's on your mind? Jared asked, recognizing her thoughtful expression. I've been thinking about what you said, about moving in together. She twisted a braid around her finger. The 3-bedroom unit upstairs is still available. Jared's heart skipped. Yeah? Yeah. And I think we should do it. Take that leap. She turned to face him fully. Tony's happier than I've ever seen him. I'm happier. And watching you with him tonight, telling that story, I realized something. What's that? We're already a family. We're just living in 2 different places. Jared pulled her close, overwhelmed by emotion. Are you sure? Really sure? I am. She smiled against his chest. Besides, my business plan projections would work better with shared living expenses. He laughed. Always the practical planner. You taught me well. She lifted her face to his. So, should we tell Tony tomorrow? Tell me what? A small voice piped up from the hallway. They turned to find Tony in his pajamas, clutching his Spider-Man plush. Tony, Isadora sighed. What are you doing up again? I heard talking about me. He padded over to them. Are you saying goodbye? Please don't say goodbye. No, baby. Isadora lifted him into her arms. Actually, we were talking about saying hello, to a new home, together. Tony's eyes widened. All of us? Like Jared would live with us for real. If that's okay with you, Jared said softly. Would I get my own room still? Of course, Isadora assured him. And maybe even space for a proper Spider-Man headquarters. Tony launched himself from his mother's arms into Jared's. Can we paint the walls red and blue, and put up webs, and make a special place for my treasure box? We can definitely talk about it, Jared laughed, holding him close. But first you need to go back to bed. Tomorrow's a big day. We need to support Mommy at her meeting. Will they give you money for your food business? Tony asked Isadora. I hope so, baby. But even if they don't, we'll figure something out. They will, Tony said with complete confidence, because your food is the best, and Jared helped with the numbers, and families always win in the end. Like in Spider-Man. As they tucked him back into bed, again, Jared marveled at the simple wisdom of children. In Tony's world, love really did conquer all, families stuck together, and happy endings were guaranteed, like in his favorite stories. Back in the living room, Isadora surveyed their presentation materials one last time. You know he's right, Jared said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Whatever happens tomorrow, we'll figure it out together. I know. She leaned back against him. It's strange. A few months ago I was terrified of letting anyone help me. Now I can't imagine doing any of this alone. You'll never have to again. He kissed her temple. Whether it's business plans or bedtime stories or building a home together. Speaking of home, she turned in his arms. When should we start packing? Let's get through tomorrow first. One leap of faith at a time. But they both knew that the biggest leap, trusting in love again, building a family from broken pieces, had already been taken. Everything else was just details. Beautiful, messy, perfect details that made up the life they were choosing to build together. That night, as they fell asleep on the couch amid business plans and dreams of tomorrow, the sound of Tony's peaceful breathing drifted from his room. Outside, the city hummed its endless lullaby, and in the quiet spaces between heartbeats, love continued its patient work of healing old wounds and building new bridges, one small moment at a time. 6 months later, Jared stood in an empty apartment, surrounded by moving boxes and the echoes of memories. His laptop bag, the same one he'd carried that first day he went searching for Isadora, sat by the door, the last item to be moved to their new home upstairs. "Found it!" Tony's voice rang out from the bedroom. He emerged triumphantly, holding a small blue book. "It was under the bed." Isadora appeared behind him, dust on her nose from helping search. "Your old diary. I thought we should bring it full circle," Jared explained, taking the diary gently. "Since this is where our story really began." They gathered around the kitchen counter, their last moment in this apartment that had witnessed so much change. Jared opened the diary to its last blank pages and pulled out a pen. "What are you doing?" Tony asked, stretching up on tiptoes to see. Adding our own entry, Jared began to write. "Dear Diary, 6 months ago, you helped me find my way back to life. Today, we're moving into our new home as a family. Isadora's catering business is taking its first orders. Tony has mastered both swimming and basic addition, though his Spider-Man backflips still need work. And I've learned that sometimes the best things in life come disguised as lost books on empty buses. Thank you for being the bridge that connected our broken pieces into something beautiful. Jared, Isadora, and Tony." "Me too. I want to write something," Tony insisted. Jared lifted him up, helping him grip the pen. In wobbly letters, Tony added, "Thank you for my family," followed by his best attempt at drawing Spider-Man. Isadora took the pen last, her hand steady despite the tears in her eyes. "Dreams don't have deadlines, but sometimes they have perfect timing. Thank you for bringing us ours." They closed the diary together, 3 pairs of hands on its worn blue cover. "Ready to go home?" Jared asked softly. Tony bounced with excitement. "Can we set up my Spider-Man headquarters now? You promised. First, we need to unpack the kitchen," Isadora reminded him. "Remember, we have orders to fill tomorrow." The Small Business Development Center had not only approved her plan, but had also connected her with a network of local event planners. Her first official catering job, a small corporate lunch, was scheduled for tomorrow. The diner had already agreed to let her use their kitchen during off hours until she could afford her own space. "I can help," Tony declared. "I'm super strong now, like Spider-Man." "You sure are, buddy." Jared scooped him up. "How about you help by carrying your treasure box? That's a very important job." The decorated shoebox had grown heavier over the months, filled with memories they'd made together. Movie ticket stubs from their first family film, the cord that once represented Jared's grief but now symbolized new beginnings, Tony's latest swimming badge, and countless drawings of their growing family. As they made their final checks of the empty apartment, Isadora slipped her hand into Jared's. "Having any second thoughts? About moving 50 feet upstairs?" He smiled. "Or about spending my life with you two?" "Either. Both. Not a single one." He kissed her softly. "You?" She shook her head. "It feels right. All of it. Even the part where your new business partner insists on taste-testing everything." "Hey," Tony protested from the doorway. "I'm quality control. Betty said so." They laughed, the sound echoing off bare walls that had witnessed Jared's isolation for so long. Now those same walls would welcome a new family, hold new memories, echo with new laughter. The 3-bedroom unit upstairs was chaos, boxes everywhere, furniture half arranged, Tony's new room already sporting the promised red and blue walls. But it was their chaos, their home. That evening, after hours of unpacking, they collapsed on their couch, technically still Isadora's, but now officially theirs. Tony had finally fallen asleep in his new room, surrounded by carefully arranged Spider-Man posters and web decals they'd spent hours applying. "I have something for you," Isadora said quietly, pulling a small package from behind a cushion. "What's this?" "Open it," Inside, Jared found a leather-bound journal, its cover a deep, rich brown. "I thought maybe it's time for a new diary," she explained. "One we can fill together." Jared ran his fingers over the smooth cover, remembering how a small blue diary had changed his life. "It's perfect. Look inside." He opened to the first page and found Tony's handwriting, "Our family story" below it, in Isadora's elegant script, because the best stories never really end. "He insisted on writing first," she said softly, "said it had to start with family." He was right. Jared pulled her close. Just like he was right about so many things. Like what? Like how families can look different but still be perfect. Like how sometimes the best superheroes don't wear capes. They wear diner aprons and make amazing chicken salad sandwiches. She laughed against his chest. And sometimes they wear old t-shirts and help little boys with math homework. From Tony's room came the sound of peaceful breathing, punctuated by the occasional happy murmur. Through their new windows, the city lights twinkled like stars, witnesses to countless stories of love and loss, endings and beginnings. Jared reached for a pen, opening the new journal. Together they began to write. Once upon a time, a lost diary found its way home, but that was just the beginning. The old blue diary sat on their bookshelf, its pages full of past hopes and fears. Beside it, this new brown journal waited to be filled with future dreams, with Tony's achievements and Isadora's business successes, with quiet moments and loud celebrations, with all the beautiful chaos of a family built on choice and trust and love. Outside, a bus rolled down their street, Route 27, the same route that had started it all. But tonight, no one on that bus was lost. Tonight, everyone who mattered was exactly where they belonged, together, home, at last. A year later, the aroma of freshly baked cookies filled Monroe's kitchen, Isadora's newly opened cafe and catering business. The small storefront, decorated in warm earth tones with touches of blue that matched a certain old diary, buzzed with the afternoon crowd. Behind the counter, Tony, now 4.5 as he proudly told everyone, carefully arranged cookies on display plates while wearing his miniature chef's apron with a Spider-Man patch sewn onto the pocket. His curls peeked out from under a matching chef's hat, his face serious with concentration. "How's my quality control expert doing?" Isadora asked, emerging from the kitchen with a fresh batch of her famous banana chocolate chip muffins. "All the cookies are perfect, Mummy," Tony declared. "But I think I need to taste one more, just to be sure." "Nice try, buddy." Jared's voice came from his usual spot, a corner table that doubled as his remote office during the cafe's operating hours. "But I think 6 quality control checks are enough for one afternoon." The bell above the door chimed as Betty walked in, now a regular, not as a colleague, but as a customer and dear friend. "There's my favorite family." "Betty," Tony ran to hug her. "Did you come to try Mummy's new recipe? It's a secret, but I can tell you 'cause you're special." Isadora and Jared shared a knowing look. Their son's definition of secret was endearingly flexible, especially when it came to people he loved. "Actually," Betty said, accepting a coffee from Isadora, "I came to check on the big news. Is it official?" Isadora's hand went to the small envelope in her apron pocket, a habit reminiscent of how she used to play with her braids when nervous. "We're telling Tony tonight." "Telling me what?" Tony's radar for adult secrets was as sharp as ever. Jared closed his laptop and moved to join them at the counter. "Well, buddy, remember how you said our family was perfect, but maybe it could be even more perfect?" Tony's eyes widened. "Like with a baby sister? Like Peter Parker's little sister. Spider-Man doesn't have a little sister." Isadora laughed. "He could, in a new story," Tony insisted. "Well?" Jared pulled out a chair and lifted Tony onto his lap. "How would you feel about writing a new story with us? One about being a big brother?" The joy that exploded across Tony's face was brighter than any superhero victory. "Really? When? Can I teach the baby about Spider-Man? Can we paint their room with webs too?" "Slow down, baby," Isadora said, but she was beaming. "First, we need to get through the next few months. And yes, you can help decorate the nursery, within reason." "This calls for celebration," Betty declared. "How about ice cream for everyone?" "Even me?" Tony asked hopefully. "Even you, sous chef." Isadora kissed his curls. "Quality control experts deserve breaks too." As they gathered around their favorite booth, the same one where Jared had first returned the diary, Tony chatted excitedly about all the things he would teach his future sibling. His treasure box would need to grow, he decided, to hold memories for both of them. Jared pulled the brown leather journal from his bag, a habit they'd maintained through the year. Each night they added a small entry, building their family story one page at a time. Today's entry would be special. Together they wrote, "Dear Journal, today our family story grows by one more heartbeat." Tony's already planning superhero training for his future sibling. Mommy's glowing brighter than the cafe's opening day. And Daddy, Tony insisted we add this title months ago, is learning that hearts can expand infinitely when filled with love. Some might say we're not a typical family. We started with a lost diary, grew through shared dreams, and built our foundation on second chances. But maybe that's what makes us perfect. Not despite our unique path, but because of it. To our growing miracle, your big brother already loves you. Your family is ready, and your story begins in a world where love finds its way home, even when the route is unexpected. The Monroe Whitmore family, including one very excited future big brother, Tony insisted on adding his signature Spider-Man drawing, now much improved after a year of practice. Below it he carefully wrote, "The best family in the universe." Outside, bus route 27 passed by their window, carrying new stories, new possibilities, new chances for love to find its way home. Inside, surrounded by the warmth of fresh-baked dreams and the love of found family, they added another page to their ever-growing story. Proof that sometimes the most beautiful chapters come after what we think is the ending. The end. If you had to entrust your diary to a stranger, as Isadora accidentally did, what would be the deepest secret you would want them to discover about you? Sometimes our most intimate vulnerabilities are precisely what connect us to others in unexpected and transformative ways. Your participation in the channel is very important. Please leave your opinion in the comments. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment your thoughts. Your participation is very important to us. See you next time. Black woman fixes a millionaire CEO's computer. But what he discovers about her past shakes him. Before we explore all the details of this incredible story, tell us where you're following us from and the time. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a thing, and let's embark on this journey together. The cracked screen of her iPhone glowed 11:47 p.m. as Yasmin Foster stared at her banking app, her heart sinking at the negative balance. Another overdraft fee. Another night of choosing between buying Noah's antibiotics or paying the electricity bill. But tonight would be different, though she didn't know it yet. The empty 47th floor of Boston's Griffin Tower hummed with the quiet desperation of late-night corporate America. Yasmin's reflection ghosted across the floor-to-ceiling windows as she pushed her cleaning cart past rows of empty desks. Her long, straight black hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, her elegant features striking even in the harsh fluorescent lighting that made her rich ebony skin seem to glow. The navy blue uniform of elite cleaning services didn't quite hide her slender figure, though she'd carefully adjusted it for modesty. She paused, adjusting one of her knockoff AirPods. Taylor Swift's latest country single played softly, her guilty pleasure, one she'd never admit to anyone. The song almost masked the sound of frustrated typing coming from the corner office. "Don't get involved," she told herself. "Just do your job and get home to Noah." Her 7-year-old son would be waiting up again despite her texts begging him to sleep. He'd be curled up in his worn Spider-Man pajamas from Target, playing Minecraft on the second-hand laptop she'd gotten from Goodwill, pretending he wasn't worried about his mom working so late. The typing stopped, replaced by a string of muttered curses that definitely weren't meant for cleaning staff ears. Yasmin hesitated. She'd learned the hard way that some people didn't appreciate help from the help. But something in that voice, frustration edged with genuine despair, made her turn around. The corner office door was open, warm light spilling into the darkened floor. Through the glass walls, she could see a man hunched over a MacBook Pro, his expensive suit jacket discarded over a chair, sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms. Even in his distressed state, his athletic frame and commanding presence were unmistakable. Marcus James Owen, the nameplate read, CEO. Yasmin's heart skipped. She'd seen him before, of course, in company newsletters, striding through lobbies, his Asian-American features and tall frame striking in perfectly tailored suits, but never this close, never this human. She should walk away. She had 3 more floors to clean before her shift ended at 2 a.m. Then 4 precious hours of sleep before her morning shift at Denny's. Yara would be home alone with her dark thoughts, and Noah needed his medicine. "Excuse me?" Her soft voice surprised even herself. "I couldn't help but overhear. Is everything okay?" Marcus looked up, and Yasmin's breath caught. His dark eyes were intense, even through his obvious exhaustion, his chiseled features shadowed with stubble that probably hadn't been there that morning. "I'm fine," he said automatically, then seemed to really see her. His expression shifted from dismissive to desperate in a heartbeat. "Actually, no. I have a board presentation in 6 hours and my laptop just crashed. I can't access any of my files, and IT isn't answering at this hour." Yasmin twisted her cleaning cloth between her hands. I took a computer course once, at the Tech Future Community program. Maybe I could—" She trailed off, suddenly aware of how presumptuous she sounded. A cleaning lady offering tech help to a CEO, but Marcus was already standing, hope warring with skepticism on his face. "You know about data recovery. Basic stuff," she admitted, "but sometimes basic is all you need." He gestured to the chair beside him, and Yasmin felt the weight of worlds shifting. She should be cleaning, should be hurrying home, should be doing anything but sitting down at a CEO's desk at midnight. But she sat. The familiar scent of coffee lingered in the air. Expensive coffee, not the break room stuff she was used to. Marcus leaned close as she began typing, his cologne subtle but intoxicating. His Patek Philippe watch probably cost more than her annual salary, yet here he was, watching her work with the same hope she saw in Noah's eyes when his games wouldn't load. "There," she said after a few minutes of focused typing. "Try it now." Marcus reached past her to test the system, his arm briefly brushing hers. The files opened smoothly, his presentation intact. "How did you—" He stared at the screen, then at her, really seeing her for the first time. Yasmin stood quickly, smoothing her uniform. "Just a simple recovery trick. I should get back to work." "Wait," Marcus called as she reached the door. "I never got your name." She hesitated, one hand on the doorframe. "Yasmin. Yasmin Foster." "Thank you, Yasmin Foster." The way he said her name made it sound like poetry. She nodded and slipped away into the darkness of the empty office floor, her heart pounding. It wasn't until she reached the elevator that she realized she was smiling. Her phone buzzed. A text from Yara. "Where are you?" "I can't sleep." Reality crashed back. Her 16-year-old sister was struggling again, fighting the same demons that had taken their mother. Noah needed his medicine. Bills needed paying. The elevator doors closed on the 47th floor, but Yasmin couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted in her carefully balanced world. She just didn't know if that was a good thing or not. As she descended toward her normal life, Marcus Owen sat in his corner office, staring at his recovered files, but seeing only a pair of expressive brown eyes and a gentle smile that had just changed everything. Neither of them knew it yet, but that simple interaction, a crashed laptop, a quiet offer of help, a moment of genuine connection, would ripple through their lives in ways neither could imagine. Sometimes destiny writes its best stories in computer code and cleaning schedules, in midnight encounters, and moments of simple kindness. But for now, the night stretched ahead, full of possibilities and dangers, dreams and responsibilities, all balanced on the edge of a choice that had already been made. And somewhere in Boston, a little boy in Spider-Man pajamas waited up for his mother, unaware that his world was about to change forever. The fluorescent lights of Denny's at 6 a.m. had a way of making everything look both harsh and unreal. Yasmin's reflection in the chrome coffee maker showed dark circles under her eyes that even her careful makeup couldn't fully hide. She'd managed only 2 hours of sleep after her cleaning shift, her mind replaying that midnight encounter in the corner office like a scene from a movie she couldn't quite believe she'd starred in. "Order up for table 7. The cook's voice snapped her back to reality. 2 plates of Grand Slam breakfasts waited under the heating lamps, their edges already starting to curl, just like her tips would curl if she didn't move faster. Her phone vibrated in her apron pocket, another reminder about Noah's antibiotics prescription waiting at CVS. 4267 that she didn't have, not after paying for Yara's antidepressants last week, the same medication their mother had taken before. "Mom!" Noah's voice cut through her thoughts. He sat at the counter in his Washington Elementary School uniform, already showing signs of wear though the semester had barely started. His homework was spread across the Formica surface. She'd brought him to work after finding Yara had another sleepless night, too drained to get Noah ready for school. "Just a minute, baby," Yasmin called, balancing the plates with practiced grace. Table 7 was a pair of suited businessmen who barely looked up from their phones as she served them. Their watches caught the light, not quite Patek Philippe level, but enough to remind her of different hands, a different watch, just hours ago. "Mom, look." Noah held up his math worksheet, pride beaming through his gap-toothed smile. Ms. Reynolds said I might get to join the advanced math group. Yasmin's heart swelled, even as it ached. Her boy, so bright, so full of potential, doing his homework at a Denny's counter because their apartment's electricity was spotty again. That's amazing, sweetie. We'll celebrate with pancakes, okay? With chocolate chips? His eyes lit up, so much like her own. Half portion, she compromised, knowing she'd have to skip her own breakfast to make up the difference. And only if you finish that worksheet. The bell above the door chimed. Yasmin turned, coffee pot already in hand, and nearly dropped it. Marcus Owen stood in the doorway of Denny's, his 6'1" frame somehow making the familiar restaurant feel smaller. His perfectly tailored grey suit looked out of place among the vinyl booths and sticky menus. Their eyes met, and for a moment neither moved. "Good morning," he said, and somehow those two words carried more weight than they should. "Good morning, sir," Yasmin replied automatically, professionalism snapping back into place like armor. "Would you like to be seated?" He nodded, following her to a booth. Up close, he looked as tired as she felt. His board presentation must have finished recently. Had he come looking for her? No, that was ridiculous. Rich CEOs didn't track down cleaning ladies at Denny's. "Just coffee, please," he said, then glanced at her name tag as if he hadn't spent the last 6 hours remembering her name. Yasmin. She poured his coffee with steady hands, though her heart raced. The morning light through the window caught his features, softening them. Without the desperate edge of last night, she could see the subtle signs of his heritage in his face. Proud cheekbones, dark eyes that held stories of immigrant parents' sacrifices. "Mom!" Noah called again. "Is 7 times 8 56 or 64? 56, Yasmin and Marcus answered simultaneously. Noah looked up, curious. "Are you good at math too, mister?" "Noah," Yasmin started, but Marcus was already smiling. "I like to think so," he said. "I used to help out at my parents' restaurant, doing all the calculations for inventory and expenses. Math became like a friend." Noah's eyes widened. "Did you have a restaurant? With fortune cookies and everything?" "Noah!" Yasmin felt her cheeks burn. "I'm so sorry, sir. He doesn't mean to." "It's fine," Marcus laughed, and the sound was surprisingly warm. "Actually, it was a fusion place. My dad's Chinese recipes mixed with my mom's Korean ones. And yes, we had fortune cookies, though my grandmother insisted they weren't authentic." Yasmin watched in amazement as her son and her CEO, no, not hers, just the CEO, fell into an easy conversation about food and numbers. Noah showed off his worksheet, and Marcus pointed out clever ways to solve the problems, his Forbes-worthy business persona melting into something more real. Her phone buzzed again. Yara. Skipping first period. Can't face everyone today. Reality crashed back. Yasmin needed to get Noah to school, pick up medications she couldn't afford, convince her sister to keep fighting battles she herself barely understood. "I should get back to work," she said softly. Marcus looked up, something unreadable in his expression. "Of course, thank you for the coffee." He pulled out his wallet, leaving a $100 bill on the table. "Keep the change." "Sir, I can't—" "For Noah's college fund," he said quietly, then louder. "Thanks for helping me with math, buddy. Keep working hard." Noah beamed. "Mom, can Mr. Owen come to my school's math fair next month?" The question hung in the air like morning mist, full of impossible possibilities. Marcus paused halfway out of the booth, his expression softening as he looked at Yasmin. We shouldn't keep Mr. Owen from his important work," Yasmin managed. "Right," Marcus agreed, though something in his voice suggested he wanted to say more. "Have a good day, Yasmin Foster." She watched him leave, the $100 bill burning a hole in her apron pocket. Pride warred with necessity, dignity with desperation. In the end, she tucked it away. Noah's medicine wouldn't pay for itself. The morning rush was starting, more customers filing in. Life didn't pause for moments of connection or impossible dreams. But as Yasmin moved through her familiar routine of coffee pours and order takes, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was shifting, like tectonic plates moving beneath the surface of her carefully ordered world. And in his Tesla, driving away from Denny's, Marcus Owen found himself Google searching elementary school math fairs in Boston, wondering when exactly his life had started feeling empty of everything except board meetings and profit margins, and why a simple breakfast stop had filled some void he hadn't even known existed. The sound of breaking glass shattered the pre-dawn silence of the Foster apartment. Yasmin burst from her bedroom to find Yara standing in the dim kitchen, surrounded by the remains of their mother's favorite coffee mug, one of the few things they'd kept after the funeral. I'm sorry, Yara whispered, her box braids casting shadows on her tear-stained face. I couldn't sleep, and I thought maybe if I made coffee like Mom used to. Yasmin's heart broke at the sight of her 16-year-old sister, wearing one of their mother's old Bath and Body Works uniforms she'd started sleeping in. The morning light hadn't yet breached their small apartment's windows, but the harsh glow of Yara's phone on the counter displayed multiple missed calls from her school counselor. "It's okay, baby girl," Yasmin soothed, carefully stepping around the ceramic shards. "We'll clean this up together." "No, it's not okay," Yara's voice cracked. "Nothing's okay. I keep breaking everything I touch, just like—" She cut herself off, but they both knew the end of that sentence. Just like Mom. Before Yasmin could reach her sister, Noah appeared in the hallway, Spider-Man blanket dragging behind him. "Yaya, are you hurt?" The sisters exchanged a quick glance, years of protecting Noah's innocence kicking in automatically. Yasmin forced a smile. "Everything's fine, baby. Why don't you go get ready for school? I packed your Minecraft lunch bag already." But Noah, too perceptive for his 7 years, looked between them with worried eyes. "Is it because of the mean girls at Yaya's school? I saw on her TikTok—" "You've been on my phone," Yara snapped, then immediately regretted it when Noah flinched. "I just wanted to see your funny videos," he mumbled. Yasmin's phone buzzed, her morning alarm for her Denny's shift. In 3 hours, she'd need to be back at Griffin Tower for her cleaning job. The weight of responsibility pressed down on her shoulders like a physical thing. "Noah, bathroom, now." "Yara, sit." Her voice took on the tone their mother used to use, firm but loving. "We're having a family meeting." Once Noah was out of earshot, Yasmin took Yara's trembling hands. "Talk to me. What happened at school?" Yara's facade crumbled. "They found my antidepressants in my bag during gym. Started calling me crazy girl on Snapchat. Said I'd end up just like—" She choked back a sob. "The counselor wants to have a family discussion about my concerning behavior." Yasmin closed her eyes, remembering similar meetings about their mother. The same concerned looks, the same carefully worded suggestions, the same helplessness. "I'll call out of work. We'll go together." "No," Yara pulled away. "We can't afford it. I saw the CVS notifications about Noah's medicine." "I'm not stupid, Yasmin. I know we're barely hanging on." Before Yasmin could respond, a knock at the door froze them both. Through the peephole, she saw their landlord, Mr. Patterson, shifting impatiently. "Ms. Foster, your rent check bounced." Again, Yasmin's chest tightened. She'd been counting on her cleaning job bonus, but after missing shifts to care for a sick Noah last week— "Just a moment," she called out, then whispered to Yara, "Get Noah ready for school. We'll figure this out." Opening the door just enough to slide through, Yasmin faced her landlord in the hallway. But as she prepared her usual litany of promises and explanations, an unexpected voice cut through the tension. "Is everything all right?" Marcus Owen stood at the stairwell, looking somehow both out of place and perfectly natural in the rundown apartment building. His casual clothes, designer jeans and a soft grey Henley that did nothing to hide his athletic frame, suggested this wasn't a business visit. "Mr. Owen?" Yasmin's mind raced. "How did you—" "I had some paperwork for you," he said smoothly, holding up a manila envelope. "From HR, about the computer assistance the other night." Mr. Patterson's demeanor shifted instantly at the sight of Marcus's Rolex and casual display of authority. "Oh, you're Miss Foster's employer?" "Yes," Marcus said simply, but something in his tone made the landlord straighten. "Is there a problem?" "Just a small banking error," Yasmin interjected, pride warring with circumstance. "I'll have it sorted by—" "It's taken care of," Marcus said, surprising both of them. He pulled out his phone, tapping quickly. "I've just transferred this month's rent to the building's account, a bonus for Ms. Foster's exceptional IT work." Mr. Patterson's phone dinged, confirming the transfer. He retreated quickly, leaving Yasmin and Marcus in a hallway heavy with unspoken words. "You can't do that," she finally managed. "I can, and I did." His dark eyes held hers. "Consider it professional compensation. Your help saved me from a disastrous board meeting. I was just doing my job." "No," he cut in softly. "Your job was cleaning. You went above and beyond. Let someone do the same for you." Before she could respond, the apartment door opened and Noah bounded out, now dressed for school, but with his shirt buttoned wrong. His face lit up. "Mr. Owen, did you come to help with more math?" Marcus knelt to Noah's level, smoothly fixing his buttons while talking. "Actually, I was wondering if your mom had thought more about the math fair." Over Noah's head, their eyes met. In that moment, Yasmin saw not a CEO or a savior, but a man looking for something real in a world of corporate facades. Still, "We can't accept," she started. "Mom!" Yara's panicked voice came from inside. "The bathroom sink is overflowing." Reality crashed back like the morning's broken mug. Yasmin turned to deal with the latest crisis, but Marcus's hand caught her arm gently. "Let me help," he said quietly. "Not because you need it, but because sometimes the strongest thing we can do is accept support when it's offered with respect." Through the open door, they could see Yara trying to contain the water with their dwindling supply of paper towels, Noah offering his Spider-Man blanket as backup, and the morning sun finally breaking through their dusty windows. It painted the scene in shades of gold and shadow, much like their lives, beauty and struggle intertwined. And in that moment, standing in a run-down hallway between two worlds, Yasmin Foster faced a choice that had nothing to do with pride or money, and everything to do with trust. Sometimes the hardest walls to break aren't made of glass at all, but of the protective barriers we build around our hearts. The Griffin Tower employee break room buzzed with whispers that seemed to follow Yasmin like persistent shadows. Her cleaning cart stood forgotten in the corner as she stared at her phone, reading the email from Yara's school counselor for the third time. "Urgent meeting requested, concerning behavior, family support system evaluation." A burst of laughter from a group of office workers made her look up. They quickly averted their eyes, but not before she caught the words CEO and charity case floating in the air between them. Her reflection in the break room window showed her carefully maintained appearance, straight hair smoothed to perfection, uniform pressed despite the early morning wrestling with the broken sink, makeup covering the exhaustion of another sleepless night. But no amount of concealer could hide the weight of the morning's events. "Did you hear?" a young intern whispered too loudly to her friend by the coffee machine. He was seen at her apartment building. "Jenny from accounting says." The break room door opened and Marcus strode in, bringing with him the scent of expensive cologne and the sudden silence that accompanies authority. But today, instead of his usual purposeful walk to the executive elevator, he paused at the coffee station. "Yasmin," he said, his voice carrying in the quiet room, "do you have a moment?" She felt every eye on them as she followed him out, her heart pounding. In the relative privacy of the hallway, Marcus's professional facade softened. "About this morning." They both started simultaneously. A small smile tugged at his lips. "You first." "The rent money," Yasmin said quietly. "I can't accept it. I'll figure something out." Marcus leaned against the wall, his height making him seem protective rather than intimidating. "Would you accept a business proposal instead?" Before she could respond, her phone vibrated. A text from Noah's teacher. "Noah fell asleep in class again. Is everything okay at home?" Marcus noticed her expression change. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," she said automatically, then corrected herself. "Everything. My son's struggling at school. My sister's counselor thinks I'm an inadequate guardian. My landlord's breathing down my neck, and now everyone thinks—" She cut herself off, realizing she was unloading on her boss. But Marcus's dark eyes held nothing but understanding. "What do they think, Yasmin? That I'm trying to— that we're—" She gestured helplessly between them. "Having a torrid affair where the CEO saves the poor cleaning lady?" His tone was gently mocking, not of her but of the gossip. "I think we're both more interesting than that stereotype." Despite everything, Yasmin felt a laugh bubble up. Slightly more complicated at least. "Speaking of complications," Marcus pulled out his phone, showing her an email. "The IT department is impressed with your handling of my computer crisis. They're looking for someone to train in basic tech support for after-hours emergencies. Regular hours, better pay, benefits." Yasmin's heart leaped, then plummeted. "I don't have a degree. You have experience and natural talent. The rest can be learned." He paused. "Think about it. Not as charity, as an opportunity you've earned." The hallway suddenly felt too small, too intimate. Through the glass walls, Yasmin could see office workers trying not to stare. "I should get back to work," she said softly. "Yasmin," Marcus's voice stopped her. "About the math fair. Noah mentioned it's this Friday." She turned back, surprised he remembered. "Yes, but I'll be there. Simple, definitive. Not as your boss. Not as anything except someone who thinks your son is brilliant and deserves support." Before she could respond, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was the CVS pharmacy. "Prescription ready for pickup. Foster, Yara, sertraline 50 mg. Balance due, $147.83. The same medication their mother had taken. The same battle playing out in a new generation. Marcus saw the color drain from her face. "What is it?" "I need to make some calls," she said, already calculating which bill she could delay this time. "Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Owen, but—" "Marcus," he corrected gently. "At least when we're not surrounded by gossips and glass walls." A commotion down the hall caught their attention. Yara stood by the security desk, her school backpack clutched to her chest, tears streaming down her face. "I need to see my sister," she was telling the impassive security guard. "Please, it's important." Yasmin was moving before she could think, Marcus right behind her. The security guard straightened at the CEO's approach, but Marcus's attention was on Yara. "Let her through, James," he said quietly. "She's family." That word, family, hung in the air, like a promise or a prayer. The security guard quickly issued a visitor's pass, and Yara flew into her sister's arms. "I couldn't do it," Yara sobbed. "They were all staring, whispering, just like they did with Mom. The counselor wanted to talk about residential treatment options, and I ran." Yasmin held her sister, feeling her shake. Through the lobby windows, she could see students getting off a school bus for a corporate tour, their lives so different from the reality playing out here. "Ms. Foster," the security guard started, clearly uncomfortable with the scene, but Marcus cut him off. "My office is free," he said. "Take all the time you need." Yasmin looked at him, really looked. Past the expensive clothes and corporate power, she saw someone who understood what it meant to carry the weight of family expectations and cultural pressures, someone who'd fought his own battles with identity and belonging. "Thank you," she whispered, meaning so much more than just the office space. As she guided Yara toward the elevators, Marcus's voice stopped her once more. "Yasmin, the IT position includes full health insurance for you and your dependents. Just think about it." The elevator doors closed on his words, reflecting back the image of two sisters holding each other up, while somewhere in the building, whispers continued to circulate about the CEO and the cleaning lady. But for once, Yasmin didn't care about the rumors. Because sometimes the most important choices we make aren't about love or money or even survival. They're about recognizing that strength doesn't mean carrying every burden alone. And sometimes help comes not in grand gestures, but in quiet offers of empty offices and filled prescriptions, in remembered math fairs, and gentle corrections from Mr. Owen to Marcus. Boston rain had a way of making even the simplest decisions feel heavy with consequence. Yasmin stood under the awning of Washington Elementary School, watching parents with expensive umbrellas hurry their children to luxury SUVs while she waited for the public bus with Noah. Her Target umbrella had finally given up during last week's storm, and replacing it hadn't made the priority list. "Mom, look!" Noah pointed excitedly at his math fair project propped carefully under his raincoat, a complex pattern of numbers and colorful graphs that had kept him up late into the night. "Do you think Mr. Owen will really come?" Before she could answer, a sleek Tesla Model S pulled up to the curb. The window rolled down, revealing Marcus, dressed casually in a charcoal sweater that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "Need a ride?" he asked, then added quickly when he saw her hesitation. "It's pouring and I'm headed to the tower anyway." Noah bounced excitedly. "Mom, look at his car. It's just like in my video games." A crack of thunder made the decision for her. As they settled into the leather seats, Noah's eyes wide at the massive touchscreen display, Yasmin caught Marcus watching her in the rearview mirror. He'd clearly come straight from CrossFit, his hair still damp from a shower, a gym bag visible in the back. "You didn't have to do this," she said softly. "I wanted to," he replied, then turned to Noah. "So, tell me about your project." As Noah launched into an enthusiastic explanation of his mathematical patterns, Yasmin's phone buzzed. A text from Yara. "Don't freak out, skipped school again at the cemetery visiting Mom." Yasmin's heart clenched. The medication was helping, but some days the shadows were too heavy. She began typing a response, but another text came through. "I'm okay. Just needed to talk to her. Promise I'll be home for dinner." "Everything all right?" Marcus asked, catching her expression. "Just family stuff," she said, not wanting to burden him further. The rain intensified as they approached Griffin Tower. Noah pressed his face against the window, watching lightning illuminate the city. "Mom, can we show Mr. Owen my project before his important meetings?" Marcus caught her eye in the mirror again. "Actually, my morning is clear. I'd love to see it." They hurried through the lobby, past the curious stares of early morning employees. The security guard, not James this time, but a younger woman, did a double take at seeing the CEO escort a cleaning lady and a child to the executive elevator. In Marcus's corner office, Noah spread his project across the expensive conference table while Marcus listened with genuine interest. Yasmin stood by the window watching the storm while trying to ignore the whispers from passing employees. "This is brilliant," Marcus was saying to Noah. "The way you've connected the Fibonacci sequence to everyday patterns, that's college-level thinking." Noah beamed. "Ms. Reynolds says I could get into the gifted program, but—" He glanced at his mother, then dropped his voice. "It costs extra money." The silence that followed felt heavier than the storm clouds outside. Marcus looked at Yasmin, something unspoken passing between them. "Noah," he said carefully, "would you like to see something cool? Press that button on the wall. It controls the smart windows." While Noah played with the window settings, Marcus moved closer to Yasmin. "The IT position includes educational benefits for dependents." "Marcus, not charity," he cut in gently. "Investment in talent, both yours and his." Before she could respond, her phone rang. Yara's school counselor. Yasmin stepped into the hallway to take the call, her heart racing. "Ms. Foster, we need to discuss Yara's absences and recent behavior. Her latest writing assignment was concerning." Yasmin closed her eyes. "What did she write?" "A rather dark piece about following in her mother's footsteps. Given your family history—" "I'm handling it," Yasmin cut in, perhaps too sharply. "We're adjusting her medication and—" "Ms. Foster, without proper support systems and professional intervention, I'm concerned we may need to involve family services." The threat hung in the air like the storm outside. Yasmin's hand trembled as she ended the call. Through the glass walls, she could see Noah showing Marcus how to make a paper airplane out of a post-it note, both laughing as it sailed across the office. A hand touched her shoulder. Marcus had followed her out. "Bad news? They're threatening to involve CPS," she whispered, voice breaking. "Because of Yara's depression, my work hours, Noah's struggles at school. They think I can't handle it all." "You can't," he said softly, then quickly continued when she stiffened. "No one could. Not alone. I don't have a choice. You do." His dark eyes held hers. "Take the IT job. Let me help with Noah's gifted program. Not because you need saving, but because everyone needs support sometimes." Thunder crashed outside, and the office lights flickered. Noah pressed his face against the smart windows, watching lightning split the sky. In that flash of brightness, Yasmin saw everything clearly. Her pride versus her children's needs, her fear versus possibilities she'd never dared imagine. "I can't offer you charity," Marcus continued, his voice low and intense, "but I can offer you respect, opportunity, and—" He hesitated, then finished, "whatever this is between us." A commotion down the hall interrupted them. Yara stood there, soaking wet from the rain, clutching a dripping journal to her chest. Her box braids hung heavy with water, her Bath and Body Works uniform soaked through. "I went to see Mom," she said, her voice small. "I needed to tell her, to ask her." She swayed slightly, and Yasmin rushed to her side. "You're burning up," Yasmin gasped, feeling her sister's forehead. Marcus was already moving, calling his private doctor, ordering hot tea from his assistant, pulling a soft throw blanket from his office couch. The contrast was stark, Yara's wet fast-fashion clothes against the expensive blanket, Noah's paper airplane landing on antique hardwood, Yasmin's cleaning uniform standing out against the executive decor. But somehow, in that moment, it all fit. Like Noah's mathematical patterns, like the rhythm of rain against smart windows, like the way Marcus's hand found hers without hesitation or judgment. Because sometimes family isn't about matching pieces, but about finding people who fill in your empty spaces. And sometimes love isn't about grand gestures or fairy tales, but about paper airplanes and borrowed blankets, about showing up in the rain and staying through the storm. The private medical clinic on Beacon Street felt like another world. Yasmin sat in a plush leather chair, watching Yara sleep on an examination bed that probably cost more than their entire apartment's furniture. Marcus's personal physician, Dr. Bennett, had just finished examining her sister, and now stood conferring quietly with Marcus near the window. "Severe bronchitis," Dr. Bennett was saying. "The fever's concerning, especially given her emotional state. I'd recommend observation for at least 24 hours. Yasmin's hand tightened around her phone, where an urgent email from her Denny's manager blinked accusingly. "Third missed shift this month. Final warning." Noah sat cross-legged on the floor, working on his homework while sneaking worried glances at Yara. He'd insisted on staying, refusing to go back to school until he knew his ya-ya was okay. His math worksheet lay forgotten beside him as he drew what looked like a family portrait, 4 figures standing together. Marcus approached Yasmin, his casual sweater somehow not looking out of place despite the medical setting. Dr. Bennett knows an excellent adolescent psychiatrist. She has experience with cases like Yara's. I can't afford insurance, he reminded her gently. If you accept the IT position. Yasmin looked at her sister's pale face, so much like their mother's in those final days. I can't leave her alone to work full-time. The position includes flexible hours and remote work options. Marcus sat beside her, close enough that she could smell his subtle cologne. Yasmin, look at me. She did, finding those dark eyes that seemed to see straight through her defenses. You're not alone anymore, he said quietly. Let me help. Not as your boss, not as a CEO, but as... He paused, searching for the right words. As what? She whispered. Before he could answer, Yara stirred, mumbling in her fever-induced sleep. Mum, I'm sorry. Yasmin was there in an instant, stroking her sister's forehead. Shh, it's okay, baby girl. I'm here. Mum always said we were stronger together. Yara's eyes fluttered open, glassy with fever. But I keep trying to be strong alone. Those words hit Yasmin like a physical blow. How many times had she done the same thing? Your mother was right, Marcus said from behind them, his voice soft but firm. No one should have to be strong alone. Noah appeared at Yasmin's side, holding up his drawing. In careful child's writing, he'd labeled the figures. Mum, Yaya, me, and Mr. Marcus. The room fell silent except for the soft beeping of medical equipment. Yasmin stared at the drawing, at this impossible family her 7-year-old had created, with Crayola markers and pure hope. Her phone buzzed again, this time a text from her landlord. Maintenance coming tomorrow for sink. Rent increase next month due to repairs. Reality crashed back like a wave. I need to make some calls, she said, standing quickly. The Denny's shift, the landlord. Already handled, Marcus said quietly. Your manager agreed to medical leave and I spoke with Mr. Patterson about the repairs. You can't keep fixing everything, Yasmin protested, but her voice lacked conviction. No, he agreed, but I can stand beside you while you fix things yourself. Dr. Bennett returned with test results and prescriptions, explaining treatment plans that made Yasmin's head spin. But Marcus took notes on his phone, asking questions about drug interactions and therapy options. There's an excellent residential treatment facility, Dr. Bennett began, but Yara's monitors immediately spiked. No, Yasmin said firmly. We stay together. There are other options, Marcus interjected smoothly. Outpatient programs, home care support. Noah tugged at Yasmin's sleeve. Mum, can we show Mr. Marcus our special hot chocolate? The one that makes Yaya feel better? The simple request cut through the medical jargon and adult complications. Yasmin looked at her son, really looked at him. Despite everything, he still believed in the healing power of Swiss Miss with extra marshmallows and love. Special hot chocolate? Marcus asked, a smile tugging at his lips. Mom put cinnamon in it, Noah explained seriously, and whipped cream when we can afford it. It's magic. Magic hot chocolate does sound better than this. Yara managed a weak smile, the first real one in days. Marcus checked his Rolex. I know a place that makes excellent hot chocolate, and they deliver. Marcus, Yasmin started, but he held up a hand. Not everything is about money or help or fixing things, he said. Sometimes it's just about hot chocolate and being together. Dr. Bennett cleared her throat. The fever's stabilizing. With proper medication and rest. She glanced at Marcus, then added, perhaps home care would be best for now. Yasmin felt tears threatening. Home. They could go home. But home meant bills and work and... One step at a time, Marcus said softly, as if reading her thoughts. Today, we focus on getting Yara better. Tomorrow, he hesitated, then continued. Tomorrow, we can talk about everything else, including this. He gestured between them, acknowledging the unspoken thing that had been growing since that late-night computer repair. Noah held up his drawing again. Can we put this on the fridge? Next to my math test? Yasmin looked at the picture. 4 people, drawn in bright colors, standing together against a crayon blue sky. No class distinctions, no complications, just family. Yes, she found herself saying. Yes, we can. Through the clinic's windows, Boston's skyline glittered in the aftermath of the storm. Griffin Tower stood among the other buildings, where just hours ago everything had seemed impossible. Now, watching Marcus order hot chocolate while Noah explained the exact right number of marshmallows needed for magic, While Yara dozed peacefully under the expensive clinic blankets, Yasmin felt something shift inside her. Because sometimes the bravest thing isn't fighting alone, it's letting someone else help carry the weight. And sometimes family isn't what you're born into or what you've lost, but what you build from the broken pieces, one cup of hot chocolate at a time. The IT department's orientation room felt surreal at 8 a.m. on a Monday morning. Yasmin sat at a sleek computer terminal, her cleaned and pressed business casual outfit from Target, feeling both foreign and empowering. Her employee badge, no longer marked cleaning services but IT support, caught the morning light, making the change feel suddenly, startlingly real. Mrs. Foster, the IT director, a woman in her 50s named Janet Maxwell, placed a stack of training manuals beside her. "We'll start with basic systems overview, then." "Ms." Yasmin corrected gently. "And please, call me Yasmin." Her phone buzzed silently in her new work bag. A sophisticated leather tote Marcus had insisted was standard office equipment. A text from Yara. "First therapy session done. Dr. Rivera is actually cool. She has BTS posters in her office." Relief flooded through her. After a week of recovery at home, Yara had finally agreed to try therapy, but only after a long video call with Dr. Rivera, where the therapist had connected with her over K-pop and TikTok trends. "Your technical foundation is impressive," Janet was saying, reviewing Yasmin's preliminary assessment. "That night with Mr. Owen's computer showed real problem-solving skills." Yasmin's cheeks warmed, remembering how that late-night encounter had changed everything. Now, 2 weeks later, her life looked dramatically different. Yara was getting help. Noah was enrolled in the gifted program, and she was sitting in an office instead of cleaning it. A knock at the door made them both look up. Marcus stood there, casual in his Friday office attire. No tie, sleeves rolled up, showing the subtle strength of his forearms. "Sorry to interrupt," he said, though his smile suggested he wasn't sorry at all. "Just wanted to make sure everything's going smoothly." Janet beamed. "Mr. Owen, yes, we were just getting started. Yasmin's preliminary scores are excellent." "I'm not surprised," he said, his eyes meeting Yasmin's with warmth that had nothing to do with professional assessment. Her phone buzzed again. Noah this time. "Mom, I got an A+ on my science project. Mr. Marcus's idea about solar panels worked." The past 2 weeks had been full of such moments, Marcus helping Noah with homework over FaceTime, sending Yara encouraging texts about her therapy, appearing with coffee just when Yasmin needed it most. Small gestures that meant everything. "We should grab lunch," he said casually, "to discuss your training schedule." Janet's knowing smile suggested she saw right through the professional pretense, but her warm expression held no judgment, only understanding. "I have plans," Yasmin said reluctantly. "Yara's therapy appointment, then Noah's parent-teacher conference." "No, I know," Marcus smiled. "That's why I had lunch delivered to Dr. Rivera's office. We can all eat together after Yara's session." Before Yasmin could respond, another IT employee burst in. "Server crisis on 32, the trading system is down." Janet jumped up, but Marcus held up a hand. "Perfect training opportunity." "Yasmin?" She felt everyone's eyes on her. The CEO, the IT director, the panicked employee. 2 weeks ago, she would have shrunk under such attention. But now, "Let me take a look," she said, following them to the elevator with confident steps. The 32nd floor was chaos. Traders shouted into phones, technicians huddled around terminals, and the air crackled with panic. Yasmin approached the main server bank, her mind already racing through possibilities. "The system's rejecting all connections," a tech explained. "We've tried—" "Wait," Yasmin interrupted, spotting something familiar in the code scrolling across the screen. "I've seen this before in my Tech Future course." Her fingers flew across the keyboard, drawing on knowledge she'd thought long forgotten. The room fell silent, except for the click of keys and her soft muttering. "There," she said finally. "Try it now." Screens flickered, then came alive. The trading system rebooted, and a cheer went up across the floor. Janet stared at her in amazement. "How did you—" "Sometimes the simplest solutions get overlooked," Yasmin explained. "Basic programming often works better than complicated fixes." She felt Marcus's presence behind her, solid and supportive. "Like life," he said softly, for her ears only. Her phone chimed, a reminder for Yara's appointment. The contrast struck her. Minutes ago solving $1 million trading crisis, now rushing to make sure her sister didn't miss therapy. "Go," Marcus said, reading her expression. "Janet can handle the paperwork. Family comes first. That word, family, didn't feel strange anymore when he said it. In the elevator, Yasmin caught her reflection in the polished doors. The woman staring back wasn't just a cleaning lady or a single mother or even an IT trainee. She was all of those things and more. Her phone buzzed one last time. A text from Marcus. "Proud of you, all of you. Don't forget Noah's favorite hot chocolate for after his conference." She smiled, remembering their first real conversation about his parents' restaurant, about understanding the value of hard work and the importance of dreams. Now here she was, living a dream she'd never dared to have. The elevator opened on the lobby, and Yasmin stepped out with her head high. Employees who once barely noticed her now nodded in greeting. The security guard, James today, gave her a respectful Ms. Foster as she passed. Outside, Boston's spring sunshine painted everything in shades of possibility. Her new life stretched before her like an open road, not easier perhaps, but filled with support and hope, and her heart skipped as she spotted Marcus waiting by his Tesla, 2 cups of premium hot chocolate in hand. "Thought you might want company," he said simply. And standing there between her past and her future, Yasmin realized something profound. Sometimes the biggest changes don't come from grand gestures or dramatic moments, but from simple choices made with courage and love. Because transformation isn't always about leaving everything behind. Sometimes it's about bringing the best parts of your past into a future you never thought possible. And sometimes the strongest foundations are built not on corporate success or social status, but on hot chocolate promises and the quiet understanding that you don't have to face any challenge alone. The headline on the business news website glared from Yasmin's computer screen: "Griffin Tower CEO Marcus Owen's personal life under scrutiny. Sources question recent HR decisions." Her hands trembled as she scrolled through the article, each word hitting like a physical blow. Anonymous sources questioning her rapid promotion, suggesting impropriety, drawing parallels to other corporate scandals. Worse were the comments section, where speculation about their relationship turned ugly and personal. Her phone lit up with a text from Marcus. "Don't read the news, it's nothing, we'll handle it." But it wasn't nothing. The careful balance they'd built over the past month, her new IT career, Yara's therapy progress, Noah's flourishing in the gifted program, and their quietly growing relationship, suddenly felt fragile as glass. A knock at her office door made her jump. Janet stood there, her usually warm expression worried. "Yasmin, the board's called an emergency meeting. They're asking questions." "About me," Yasmin said quietly. It wasn't a question. Her computer chimed with an urgent email. Noah's gifted program coordinator, concerning comments from other parents regarding scholarship funding sources. Meeting requested. The walls seemed to close in. Everything they'd built was being questioned, tainted by implications and whispers. Her phone buzzed again. Yara this time. "People at school talking about article. Can't handle the stairs. Please don't make me go to therapy today." Before she could respond, Marcus appeared in her doorway, his usual composed demeanor showing cracks of concern. "Yasmin, don't," she cut him off, standing. "Don't say it's nothing. Don't say we'll handle it. This is exactly what I was afraid of." The office had grown quiet, other employees pretending not to watch through glass walls as their CEO and the woman from the news article faced each other. "You've earned everything you've achieved here," Marcus said firmly. "Your technical skills are being questioned because of us," she finished. "My ability, my promotion, even Noah's school placement. They're painting it all as—" She couldn't finish. Janet cleared her throat. "The board meeting starts in 10 minutes, Mr. Owen." Marcus didn't move. "Yasmin, please, let me handle this. Like you handled the rent, the medical bills, the school fees." Her voice cracked. "They're right. Everything in my life now is because of you." "No." He stepped closer, regardless of their audience. "Everything in your life is because of your strength, your determination. I just removed some obstacles." Her phone chimed again, a series of texts from Yara. "Kids sharing article in school group chat. Someone made a meme about us, can't breathe, having panic attack in bathroom. Don't want to end up like mom." That last message made Yasmin's blood run cold. She grabbed her bag, already moving. "I have to go. Yara needs me." "Let me drive you." "No." The force of her response made everyone in the office jump. "Can't you see? Your help, your involvement in our lives. It's making everything worse." The hurt in his eyes felt like a physical pain, but she pushed through it. "I need to handle this myself, my family, my job, my life. I need to know I can do it alone." "You can," he said softly, "but you don't have to." Another email notification popped up on her screen. The board requesting her presence at the meeting too, to clarify certain relationships and decisions. The double meaning wasn't lost on anyone. "Ms. Foster," Janet said gently, "whatever you decide about the meeting, you've proven yourself here. The whole IT team stands behind you." But Yasmin barely heard her. Her mind was racing through possibilities. Yara having a breakdown at school, Noah facing whispers at his gifted program, her own professional reputation in tatters. "I need to get my sister," she said, her voice distant. "Please tell the board." "Tell them what?" Marcus asked when she trailed off. Yasmin looked at him, really looked, at the man who had changed everything by believing in her, who had shown her son what a father figure could be, who had helped her sister find hope again, the man she was falling in love with, even though she'd fought against it. "Tell them," she straightened her shoulders. "Tell them I'll be back tomorrow, with proof of my qualifications, documentation of my technical experience, and my resignation if they require it. But right now, my sister needs me." She turned to leave, but Marcus's voice stopped her. "And what about what you need?" The question hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Through the glass walls, she could see people hurrying past, some obviously discussing the news on their phones. Her carefully constructed new world was fracturing, and she had to choose, fight or flight. Her phone buzzed one final time, a photo from Noah, him at his desk in the gifted program, proudly holding up a perfect math test. His smile was pure joy, untouched by the adult complications swirling around him, and in that moment, Yasmin realized something profound. Running away wouldn't protect her family from pain. It would only teach them to fear love, connection, and growth. Just like her mother's depression had taught them to fear vulnerability. "What I need," she said finally, turning back to Marcus, "is to know that everything we've built, my career, the kids' progress, us, isn't going to shatter because some people can't believe a former cleaning lady deserves happiness." Marcus stepped forward. Professional distance be damned. "Then let's prove them wrong. Together." The word echoed in her mind. Together. Not alone, not saved, but partnered. Equal. "I have to get Yara," she said, but her voice was stronger now. "And then we'll face whatever comes next." "We will," he promised. And somehow, even with scandal swirling and careers hanging in the balance, she believed him. Because sometimes the true test of love isn't in the grand gestures or the easy moments, but in standing firm when the world tries to tear you apart. And sometimes the strongest foundations are built not when everything is perfect, but when you choose to fight for what matters, even if it means facing every storm together. The Griffin Tower boardroom felt colder than usual, its floor-to-ceiling windows offering a grey view of Boston's skyline. Yasmin sat straight-backed in her chair, her target blazer pressed to perfection, her portfolio of certifications and technical achievements laid out before her like armor. On the screen behind her, a PowerPoint presentation showed her completed projects, the trading floor crisis she'd solved, the security protocols she'd improved, the efficiency systems she'd implemented. 1 month of work that proved her worth beyond any doubt. "Ms. Foster," Board Chairman Richard Davidson adjusted his glasses, "your technical qualifications are impressive. However, Yasmin cut in smoothly, channeling ounce ounce of strength she'd developed as a single mother. You're concerned about the appearance of impropriety, about whether my relationship with Marcus, with Mr. Owen, compromises the company." The room fell silent. Marcus, sitting at the far end of the table as required by corporate governance, hadn't taken his eyes off her since she'd walked in. Her phone buzzed silently in her pocket. She knew without looking it would be Yara, waiting at Dr. Rivera's office with Noah. They'd insisted on being nearby during the meeting, a small family united in crisis. "The press coverage has been problematic," another board member offered. Yasmin opened her laptop, turning it to face the board. "I'd like to show you something." On the screen, lines of complex code scrolled past, the solution she'd implemented during the trading crisis. "This is proprietary code I wrote, not from any template, not from any course. Original work that saved the company millions in potential trading losses." She clicked to another screen. "And this is my original coding project from the Tech Future program, dated 7 years ago." Note the similar structure, the same innovative approach to problem solving. Janet, sitting in as IT director, leaned forward. "The similarities are remarkable. This proves, Yasmin continued, her voice steady, that my abilities existed long before I met Marcus Owen, before I cleaned these offices, before I became someone you'd consider worthy of notice. She stood, smoothing her skirt with trembling hands. I won't apologize for falling in love, but I also won't let you reduce my achievements to a scandal or my relationship to office gossip. Her phone buzzed again. This time a text from Noah appeared on her Apple Watch, a gift from Marcus she'd finally accepted. "Mom, we believe in you. Yaya's doing much better today." Drawing strength from those words, she continued, "My sister is winning her battle with depression. My son is thriving in a program that recognizes his genius. And I am excelling at a job I earned through skill and determination." She turned to face Marcus directly. "Yes, Mr. Owen gave me opportunities, but I seized them. I worked for them. I proved myself worthy of them." "The timing of your promotion," Davidson began, "was based on merit," Janet interrupted. "I have documentation of every decision, every evaluation. Yasmin's technical solutions have already saved us more than her annual salary several times over." Marcus started to speak, but Yasmin held up a hand. This was her battle to fight. "I understand appearances matter," she acknowledged. "So let me be clear. I'm not asking for special treatment. Test me. Evaluate me. Compare my work to any IT professional in this building, but judge me on my merits, not on who I love." The word love hung in the air, the first time she'd said it out loud. Through the glass walls, she could see office workers trying not to stare, could imagine the whispers and tweets already circulating. Her watch showed another text, this time from Yara. "Dr. Rivera says Mom would be so proud of us right now, of you, and I am too." Tears threatened, but Yasmin blinked them back. "7 years ago, I took a computer course while pregnant, dreaming of a better future. 3 months ago, I cleaned these offices at night, teaching myself coding from YouTube between shifts. Today, I stand before you as a qualified IT professional who happens to be dating your CEO." She gathered her documents with steady hands. "If that's a problem, I'll tender my resignation, but know that you'll be losing an employee based on prejudice, not performance." The boardroom remained silent for a long moment. Finally, Davidson spoke. "Ms. Foster, would you and Mr. Owen give us the room to deliberate?" In the hallway, Marcus immediately reached for her hand, but Yasmin held back. "Wait," she said softly. "Whatever they decide, I need you to know something." His dark eyes searched her face, concern evident in every line of his features. "I love you," she said simply. "Not for what you've given us, but for how you've helped me believe in myself, in possibilities, in love itself." Before he could respond, the boardroom door opened. Davidson gestured them back in, his expression unreadable. "Ms. Foster," he began formally, "the board has reviewed your qualifications, your performance records, and the circumstances of your employment." Yasmin felt Marcus tense beside her. "We find no cause for concern regarding your professional appointment," Davidson continued. "Furthermore, while we recommend discretion in workplace interactions, your personal relationship with Mr. Owen does not violate any company policies." Relief flooded through her, but Davidson wasn't finished. "However," he added, "we would like to suggest one modification to your position." Yasmin's heart stuttered. "Sir, we'd like you to head up a new initiative, training and recruitment from non-traditional backgrounds, technical education for employees looking to advance, starting with the cleaning staff." Tears spilled then, but Yasmin didn't try to hide them. I would be honored." Her watch lit up with rapid-fire texts from Yara and Noah, who'd obviously been monitoring the situation through Janet's updates. "Yes, Mom." "You did it! Can we have celebration hot chocolate?" And suddenly, standing in that boardroom with her career intact and her dignity preserved, Yasmin realized something profound. Sometimes the biggest victories aren't just about proving others wrong, but about proving yourself right. Marcus's hand found hers, and this time she held on tight. Because sometimes love isn't about being saved or being the savior. It's about standing together, fighting together, and believing together. And sometimes the most powerful answer to doubt and prejudice isn't anger or retreat, but simply standing firmly in your truth, holding tight to those who believe in you, and showing the world that love and success aren't mutually exclusive gifts. 6 months later, the 47th floor of Griffin Tower looked different in the evening light. Or maybe it was Yasmin who was different, standing in her office, the same corner office where she'd once cleaned floors and fixed a CEO's computer on a fateful night. Her reflection in the window showed a woman transformed, confidence in her posture, purpose in her eyes, and a small smile that spoke of hard-won contentment. Her business attire, no longer from Target but still chosen with careful consideration, suited her as naturally as her old cleaning uniform once had. "Ms. Foster," her assistant poked her head in. "Your 6 o'clock is here, the new training program candidates." Yasmin turned from the window, gathering the materials she'd prepared. "Send them in, please." 5 people filed in, all wearing elite cleaning services uniforms. She recognized that mixture of hope and uncertainty in their eyes. She'd worn it herself not so long ago. "Welcome to the Tech Future Corporate Initiative," she began warmly. "I'm Yasmin Foster, and 6 months ago I was standing exactly where you are now." Her phone lit up with a text from Yara. "Killed my college interview. Dr. Rivera's breathing techniques really helped. Love you." Pride bloomed in her chest. Her sister, now thriving in therapy and managing her depression, had applied to Boston University's computer science program. The same girl who'd once hidden in school bathrooms was now planning her future with confidence. "Mom!" Noah's voice carried through the office as he burst in, still in his advanced mathematics club uniform. "Mr. Peterson says I might be ready for high school math next year." Marcus followed more sedately, carrying Noah's backpack and what looked suspiciously like Celebration hot chocolate cups from their favorite cafe. "Sorry to interrupt," he said, not looking sorry at all. Someone couldn't wait to share his news. The cleaning staff candidates straightened, recognizing the CEO, but Yasmin noticed they relaxed when they saw how naturally Noah ran to her, how easily Marcus set the drinks down and helped straighten the boy's crooked collar. "Actually," Yasmin smiled, "your timing is perfect. Everyone, this is my son Noah, who taught me that mathematics can be magic, and this is Marcus Owen, who believed in second chances and the power of opportunity." She turned back to the candidates. 6 months ago I was working 2 jobs, raising 2 kids alone and dreaming of something more. Today I run IT operations and this training initiative, not because someone handed it to me, but because someone gave me the chance to prove what I could do." Her hand found Marcus's naturally as she continued, "That's what this program offers. Not charity, not handouts, but opportunity. The tools to build your own future." Noah, now settled with his homework at the small desk Yasmin kept in her office for him, piped up, "Mom's really good at teaching. She helped me understand algorithms before anyone in my class." The candidates chuckled, tension breaking. One young woman, barely older than Yara, raised her hand tentatively. "Ms. Foster, I'm a single mom too. My daughter's 3. Is it really possible to—" She gestured vaguely at the office, the view, the life Yasmin had built. "What's your name?" Yasmin asked gently. "Maria." "Maria, 6 months ago I was cleaning this very office at midnight. Now I'm running it. Not because of fairy tales or luck, but because I was given a chance and I worked hard to make it count." Her phone chimed again, a reminder about dinner. They were all expected at Marcus's parents' house, where his mother had finally perfected the fusion of Korean comfort food and American hot chocolate that Noah declared almost as good as Mom's magic recipe. Looking at the eager faces before her, Yasmin felt everything come full circle. The program takes dedication. You'll work your regular jobs, attend evening classes, complete technical certifications. It won't be easy. But you won't be alone, Marcus added, surprising everyone by speaking. This company believes in untapped potential, in second chances, in the power of opportunity combined with determination. Noah looked up from his homework. "Like how Mom helped fix your computer that night." Marcus smiled, the same warm smile that had first shown Yasmin the man behind the CEO title. Exactly like that. The candidates were taking notes now, hope replacing uncertainty in their expressions. Yasmin launched into the program details, explaining schedules, requirements, and opportunities, but part of her mind was already at dinner, where Yara would share her interview stories, Noah would explain his latest mathematical discovery, and Marcus's parents would argue lovingly about whose cultural comfort food better cured a hard day. Later that night, after the candidates left with applications in hand and hope in their hearts, after Noah had fallen asleep on Marcus's office couch surrounded by math worksheets, Yasmin stood again at the window. Marcus joined her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Proud of you," he murmured. "Proud of us," she corrected. "All of us." Her phone showed a final text from Yara. "Got the grades for early admission. Can we celebrate this weekend? Love you guys." Yasmin leaned back against Marcus, watching their reflection in the window. Behind them, Noah slept peacefully, his homework showing complex equations that would have scared her 6 months ago, but now filled her with understanding and pride. You know, Marcus said softly, that night when my computer crashed, I was working on a proposal about corporate responsibility and community investment. I never finished it. Why not? Because something better came along. Someone who showed me that real change doesn't come from proposals and programs. It comes from believing in people, from giving them not just opportunities, but respect. Yasmin turned in his arms. And love, he agreed, kissing her softly. Always love. Noah stirred on the couch, mumbling something about algorithms in his sleep. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, more candidates to train, more barriers to break, more battles to fight. But tonight, in this office where everything began, Yasmin Foster stood complete. Because sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about dramatic rescues or fairy tale endings, but about two people who help each other become their best selves. And sometimes the most powerful magic isn't found in grand gestures or perfect moments, but in the quiet triumph of proving that with love, support, and determination, any destiny can be crossed, any future can be rewritten, and any heart can find its home. 2 years later, the autumn breeze carried the scent of fallen leaves across Boston Common as Yasmin adjusted Noah's tie, a miniature version of Marcus's. At 9 years old, her son had insisted on matching his stepfather for this special occasion, right down to the carefully folded pocket square. "Mum, you're doing it again," Noah complained good-naturedly as she fussed with his collar. "Let her fuss," Marcus laughed, looking handsome in his charcoal suit. "It's a big day." And it was. The banner across Griffin Tower's entrance read, Tech Future Corporate Initiative, 2nd Anniversary Celebration and Graduation Ceremony. Below it, crowds gathered, employees, families, and most importantly, the newest graduating class of the program Yasmin had built from her own experience. Her phone buzzed with an incoming FaceTime call from Yara, now a sophomore at Boston University. Her sister's face appeared, bright with excitement despite the early hour in her dorm room. "I'm on my way," Yara exclaimed. "Just finished my morning classes. Save me a seat next to Maria and her daughter." Yasmin smiled, remembering the young single mother from that first class of candidates. Maria now ran the IT help desk, her daughter thriving in the same gifted program that had changed Noah's life. "Don't forget Mum's necklace," Yara added softly. "It's perfect for today." Yasmin touched the delicate chain around her neck, their mother's favorite piece of jewelry, now a symbol of how far they'd come from those dark days of depression and loss. Dr. Rivera had helped Yara frame it perfectly during one of their final therapy sessions. Mum's story didn't end with goodbye. It continued through the strength she gave us. The ceremony space filled quickly. 50 graduates in business attire, former cleaning staff, security guards, maintenance workers, all now certified IT professionals. Their families beamed with pride, many holding signs and flowers. In the front row, Marcus's parents sat with Noah, his mother dabbing her eyes already. Beside them, Janet from IT had come out of retirement specially for this day, wearing the Mentor of the Year pin Yasmin's students had given her. "Ready?" Marcus squeezed her hand as she prepared to take the stage. Yasmin looked out at the crowd. 2 years ago, she'd stood in this same building in a cleaning uniform, dreaming of something more. Now, she stepped to the podium, her confidence as natural as breathing. "Welcome, everyone. 2 years ago, a computer crashed and a life changed." The ceremony flowed perfectly. Graduates received their certificates, shared their stories, cried happy tears. Maria's little girl presented Yasmin with a hand-drawn card showing stick figures at computers, all wearing superhero capes. When the formal proceedings ended, families mingled over catered refreshments, including, of course, hot chocolate with the magic recipe Yasmin had shared with the hotel's chef. "Mrs. Owen?" One of the graduates approached hesitantly. "Still Ms. Foster professionally," Yasmin corrected gently, though her wedding ring caught the light as she spoke. "But please, call me Yasmin. Thank you, not just for the program, but for showing us it's possible. All of it." Yara arrived then, wrapping Yasmin in a fierce hug before pulling out her phone to show off her latest coding project. Noah immediately launched into an explanation of how her algorithm could be improved, making everyone laugh. Marcus watched his family with quiet joy, remembering that desperate night with a crashed computer and an approaching deadline. "Worth every crisis," he murmured. "What was that?" Yasmin asked. "Just thinking how some computer problems turn out to be the best thing that ever happened to you." Later that evening, they gathered at their home, a comfortable townhouse halfway between Griffin Tower and Noah's School. Not too luxurious, but full of warmth and life. Photos lined the walls: Yara's high school graduation, Noah's math competition victories, the intimate wedding ceremony, where they'd all shared cups of hot chocolate instead of champagne. Yasmin stood in the kitchen, watching through the window as Marcus helped Noah set up his new telescope in the backyard. Yara sat on the deck working on her coding assignment, occasionally calling out questions that Noah surprisingly could answer. Her phone showed a text from Maria. "My daughter got into the gifted program. Thank you for blazing the trail." Looking at her blended, beautiful family, Yasmin thought about destiny and choices, about cleaning floors and writing code, about love that transforms but never diminishes who you are. She touched her mother's necklace, then her wedding ring, then the newest addition, a small pendant Marcus had given her at the ceremony, engraved with a simple line of code that meant, "Create new beginning." The doorbell rang, their regular Sunday dinner guests arriving. Marcus's parents came bearing Korean dishes, while Janet followed with her famous apple pie. The house filled with laughter, multiple languages, and the smell of fusion comfort food. As they gathered around the table, Noah proudly showing off his latest mathematical proof, Yara discussing her summer internship plans, and Marcus's mother teaching Yasmin another secret recipe, Yasmin felt the completeness of her journey. Because sometimes the most beautiful endings aren't endings at all, but beginnings written in infinite loops of love and possibility. And sometimes the greatest achievement isn't in reaching a destination, but in creating a path for others to follow, lighting the way with hope, determination, and maybe just a touch of hot chocolate magic. In the end, every crossed destiny is just the start of a new algorithm, calculating infinite possibilities for those brave enough to believe in second chances, strong enough to fight for their dreams, and wise enough to know that love, pure, supportive, respectful love, is the most powerful code of all. Final author's note. Dear readers, this story celebrates not just romance, but the power of believing in yourself and others. It's about family, both born and chosen, and the courage to accept love in all its forms. What dreams are you holding back from? What chances are you afraid to take? Remember Yasmin's journey, and know that sometimes the greatest adventures begin with a simple choice to believe in possibilities. Your story matters. Your dreams matter. And yes, your participation in this channel matters too. Please share your thoughts, your stories, and your own crossed destinies in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment your thoughts. Your participation is very important to us. See you next time.